Chapter 801, Beauxbaton Speech. Beauxbaton's Academy of Magic, the alma mater of Sorbonne, stands as one of the three prestigious magic schools in Europe, alongside Hogwarts and Durmstrang. With the arrival of John, the school was bustling in preparation for the opening dinner. Headmistress Miss Maxime, known for her exacting standards, was meticulously inspecting the start-of-term dinner. After tasting the potato pancakes prepared by the house elves, she expressed her dissatisfaction. This certainly doesn't taste like what Hogwarts offers. The house elf, too intimidated to object, hurried to make another batch. Ms. Maxime, wielding her golden spoon, tasted the ingredients. Upon trying the French bouillabaisse, her face lit up with satisfaction. Perfect. Even the usually reserved headmistress made her way to the kitchen, prompting the house elves to redouble their efforts. Your culinary skills will be showcased before some of the most distinguished individuals in the wizarding world, Madame Maxime critiqued. They must be flawless. Gabrielle and her friends, curious, peeked from behind the kitchen door. A fourth-grade Beauxbaton's girl whispered, "This is the first time I've seen Ms. Maxime in the kitchen." Who could be the most honorable person in the wizarding world, pondered Gabrielle, who was notably more popular than Fleur had been during her time at school. After her friend's inquiry, Gabrielle speculated, perhaps it's the headmaster of another school. Hogwarts, her friend suggested. I don't think so, Gabrielle replied, blinking thoughtfully. Engrossed in their discussion, they failed to notice the towering figure of Miss Maxime at the door. Gabrielle Delacour, I see you're here, said Miss Maxime, lifting her with one hand. She gently tapped Gabrielle's nose, smiling. I have an important task for you. Gabrielle, nervous, inquired, what kind of task? Ms. Maxime, smiling warmly, pinched Gabrielle's cheek. A very important job. And you, Miss Adele Clovac, she continued, turning her attention to another student. Adele, with dark hair, looked as if she wanted to cry. She'd only wanted to sneak a snack. The girls, caught by Miss Maxime, were escorted away. Unlike Hogwarts, which is divided into 4 houses, Beauxbaton's boasts a refined dining etiquette. The academy, adorned in blue attire, radiates elegance and vibrancy. In the garden, fairies played beautiful music, enhancing the dining hall's ambiance. Adele, feeling resentful, glared at Gabrielle, then at a boy who caught her eye. It's over. We're like flower girls at a wedding, she lamented, wishing she could disappear. However, Miss Maxime had dressed her in a stunning blue silk dress, complemented by a sapphire necklace from her private collection, leaving her breathless. The two made a striking pair, drawing admiring glances from passing students. As the students settled in, a massive carriage approached from the sky, landing gracefully in front of them. The rune-engraved horses stomped, their hooves echoing. The girls held down their skirts against the wind, watching as the carriage door opened and a ladder unfurled. Adele gasped upon seeing the man who emerged, covering her mouth to stifle her screams. Gabrielle stared in disbelief. I don't recall Beauxbaton's uniforms looking like this, the man remarked, noticing their unique attire. Glancing at his own clothes, he snapped his fingers, transforming them into a set of exquisite wizard robes. Gabrielle? He said, recognizing the stunned girl. Walking over, he smiled warmly. Long time no see. Which king? Adele exclaimed, unable to contain her excitement. With excitement lighting up her face, Gabrielle moved closer to John, her admiration evident. Miss Maxim didn't even mention you were coming. This is awesome. John shrugged casually. I thought she had informed you. Didn't Fleur mention it? Gabrielle immediately voiced her complaint upon hearing her sister knew. She didn't tell me at all. I thought I was coming here to surprise her. Adele couldn't take her eyes off John, understanding now why Miss Maxim had been so strict. The most esteemed individual in the magical world had arrived. As they entered, the atmosphere within Beauxbaton's academy stirred with excitement. The students, still within the school's walls, gazed in awe at the distinguished guest being welcomed. John Wick, known as the Witch King, was a figure they had never expected to grace their school with his presence. Miss Maxim, upon seeing John, stood up with joy to greet him, anticipating a lively opening dinner. The new students at Beauxbaton felt overwhelmed. Stories of John Wick had been part of their upbringing, and even those from non-magical backgrounds had heard tales of his prowess once they discovered their own magical abilities. Known as the finest wizard, A Hogwarts alumnus and the wizard king of the magical world, John's legend was unparalleled. His mere presence prompted exclamations of "Merlin's beard" from those around him. Unlike in Britain, sightings of John in France were rare, making this occasion even more extraordinary. During times of danger and panic, John's name had been a beacon of hope. Now, seeing him in person, the students could instantly recognize the legendary Witch King who was set to unify the wizarding world. Madame Maxim announced that John would deliver a significant speech on alchemy, inviting interested students to attend. She introduced him not only as the most powerful wizard, but also as the world's greatest alchemist. After her announcement, she thanked John for his presence on the first day of school, to which he responded with a smile, expressing his eagerness to contribute to his teacher's school. In John's heart, Beauxbatons held a special place, akin to a second alma mater. Addressing the students, John greeted them as the future of the wizarding world. He reminisced about his time as an exchange student at Beauxbatons, an experience he found enriching. He spoke of his mentor, Nicholas Flamel, and the friendships he formed, his memories bringing a smile to his face. John emphasized the importance of determination and choice on the magical journey, encouraging the students to embrace their path without doubt. He concluded his speech by reminding them that there was much to learn about magic, but for now, it was time to enjoy the feast. This agreement with Ms. Maxim and his light-hearted command to eat showcased the Witch King's more approachable side, leaving the Beauxbatons students smiling and eager to see what the future held. Chapter 802, Lockhart's new book release. John had always known Ms. Maxim to be someone who adorned herself in luxurious attire, but he had never imagined she would offer him accommodation in a palace carriage. As he gazed at Gabriel and Adele, who stood outside with resolute expressions, he couldn't help but ask, "Why don't you go back?" "No," Adele responded earnestly. "Miss Maxim has specifically exempted us from curfew and confinement." Realizing she had revealed too much, Adele coughed, attempting to cover it up. Gabriel added, "Yes, we cannot allow the esteemed Witch King to be without the talisman feather." Adele quickly covered Gabriel's mouth, her laughter tinged with awkwardness. John felt even more embarrassed than she did. He hadn't expected Ms. Maxim to be aware of the incident with the talisman feather. The two girls, granted the freedom to roam at night, fixed their gaze on John. Their ability to avoid confinement this semester hinged on his cooperation, so he knew he couldn't take this lightly. Thus, John spent the night in the opulent carriage, working through documents from various departments instead of sleeping. Come dawn, he was ready to fulfill his promise. In the Beauxbatons classroom, students from the 5th to the 7th grades had gathered, leaving no seat unoccupied. The younger students had to attend their regular classes. Observing the packed room, John remarked with a smile, "It seems we might need more space." Before the students could suggest changing rooms, John brandished his wand and waved it, causing 3 walls of the classroom to recede. The room expanded magically, eliciting gasps of amazement. "Space magic," John announced, the words appearing on the blackboard behind him. The students' faces lit up with curiosity, but John quickly added, "Unfortunately, that's not our topic for today." "Alchemy," he declared, surveying the room. "Who can tell me the rules of alchemy?" A student nervously stood up and answered, "There's no such thing as free gold, sir." "Very good," John commended, his smile easing the student's nerves. "Equivalent exchange. There's no free gold. Everything has a price." The chalk on the blackboard scribbled out a paragraph as John paused, deep in thought. "Let me find a way to translate my knowledge into something you can grasp." The gap between John's understanding of alchemy and that of his students was vast. Alchemy is a complex subject, and realizing the challenge, John decided to start with the basics. This approach made the class an unprecedented experience for the students. Beauxbatons, sponsored by Nicholas Flamel, boasted a higher level of alchemy education and a larger pool of talent than Hogwarts. However, as the lesson progressed, the students, initially eager, began to struggle with the complexity of the subject. They learned about the differences between goblin and wizard alchemy, the nuances of ancient and modern metals' energy fields, and the importance of runes and languages of ancient species in alchemy. John's lecture, rich in detail, felt overwhelming. By the end of the class, even the best alchemy student and 7th grade student council president found himself questioning his understanding of alchemy, murmuring in disbelief. "So I don't know alchemy at all." He wasn't alone. All the students felt lost in the depths of alchemy, realizing they lacked even the basics. John, touching his chin, expressed his concern. "I feel like they're not very enthusiastic." As the leader of the International Academy of Magical Technology, he was eager to share his knowledge with the magical world. However, he wondered if his explanations were unclear or insufficiently detailed. Miss Maxim, observing the scene with a complicated expression, seemed to ponder the same question. "Do you often discuss alchemy with others, John?" "I occasionally give lectures in the alchemy department," John replied, leaving Miss Maxim momentarily speechless. The thought of one of the top alchemists in the magical world teaching in the alchemy department made her dare. Could John's unique approach to teaching inspire these students to abandon alchemy, or might it instead spark a moment of revelation in the future, transforming an ordinary alchemist into a top one? Regardless, Miss Maxim felt grateful to John for keeping his promise, even as his visit to Beauxbatons was drawing to a close. She had enthusiastically offered to send John off with the rune horse, but he opted for the more modest transmission channel. It was only later, when Miss Maxim noticed her precious rune horse missing several feathers, that she understood John's reluctance. Meanwhile, Gabriel and Adele, relieved to no longer face confinement, had an unfortunate incident involving the rune horse that led to their punishment and a requirement to write a 7-inch self-criticism, leaving them distraught. Back in England, John's routine was simple: attend to business, go out, eat, and sleep, recharging fully in just 2 hours, and often starting his day before Tommy even went to work. One day, as John contemplated replacing his chair, Tommy, curious about John's interest in the chair, reported that Gilderoy Lockhart had released a new book. John, realizing the date was December 9th, inquired about the book's theme. Tommy explained it was about a powerful wizard's adventures in the Muggle world during vacation, prompting a discussion about the growing interest in the Muggle world among wizards. John recognized Lockhart's knack for tapping into popular trends, attributing his success to this ability. Elsewhere, Watson faced regret in a hospital in England, lamenting his decision to believe in slander, a stark contrast to John's serene and productive life. Chapter 803. Watson's Tragic Journey. Watson, a man of noble status and the head of his family, prided himself on his loyalty. When Yuri Orlov, an arms dealer, extended an invitation to him, Watson was clear about his intentions. It was strictly business. Orlov hoped to introduce his arms business to Watson, knowing well that the vast underground alliance Watson was part of had a significant demand for weapons. However, Watson declined Orlov's offer, specifically rejecting the military-grade weapons Orlov procured. Although items like the AK-47, known as the King of Guns, were impressive, they were not suitable for urban environments. Watson needed something more discreet. He sought body armor that could pass for a regular suit and a pistol that was as silent as a cat leaping from a trash can, not a weapon that announced its presence with the loudness of an explosion. Understanding the difference in their needs, Orlov still hoped Watson could facilitate a channel through which his arms could be traded, offering his services in return. The proposition became more appealing when Orlov suggested a partnership that would benefit both parties without compromising Watson's principles. In a gesture of goodwill, Orlov even offered Watson to kiss his ring, a proposal Watson declined to avoid any unsavory implications. To celebrate their agreement, Orlov suggested a night out, which led to Watson's unfortunate hospitalization. Despite Watson's insistence on his gentlemanly status, Orlov provocatively challenged him, questioning his fear of his wife's reaction. Unable to tolerate the insult to his family's honor, Watson reluctantly accompanied Orlov to a strip club, where he was exposed to a world far removed from his values. The environment was wild, with strippers performing and the audience losing themselves in the spectacle, throwing money and screaming wildly. Orlov, fully immersed, encouraged Watson to join in the revelry, but Watson resisted, internally pleading for peace and distance from the debauchery. The situation escalated when Watson was inadvertently involved in an incident leading to a hazy memory of his wife entering the scene, followed by a blackout. He awoke in a hospital in Sokovia, sharing a room with Orlov, both men bearing the consequences of their night out. Amidst their banter and the discovery of a little brown bear on the bedside table, Watson realized the gravity of their situation. Outside the hospital window, the reality of a coup unfolding in Sokovia hit him. The streets were filled with tanks, and the hospital corridors were crowded with injured soldiers and civilians, a stark contrast to the blue sky above. Watson's journey, intended for business, had taken a tragic turn, leaving him trapped in a conflict zone, far from the safety and decorum of his noble life. Orlov, equally troubled, faced the repercussions of their actions, highlighting the unpredictable nature of their ventures and the unforeseen dangers that lurked beyond the facade of their business dealings. If it weren't for the warlord's son you beat up in the strip club, this coup wouldn't have been possible, Orlov remarked, still in disbelief. He was astounded that Watson had smashed a wine bottle on the guy's forehead simply because someone else had blown a hooligan whistle. This act set off a chain of events that eventually led to an early coup, causing both internal strife and foreign aggression in their small Eastern European country. As a result, both of them had been hospitalized for a month. "Did I do that?" Watson asked, genuinely puzzled. "I don't remember anything." "How else do you think we got these injuries?" Orlov retorted angrily. "I thought my wife had hit me," Watson admitted with a sheepish honesty. "Do you think your wife is superhuman?" Orlov asked incredulously. "To me, she pretty much is," Watson replied with a shrug, his honesty unwavering. Just then the door opened, and Mrs. Wick, Watson's wife, entered with a stern expression. Following her was Ariana, who ran to Little Bear and asked earnestly, "Little Bear, did you protect Dad well?" The brown bear nodded vigorously, showing off its strength with its furry arms. Ariana's face lit up with a smile, and she hugged the bear, turning to Watson to ask, "Are you all right, Dad?" "I'll be fine in about 3 to 5 days, Watson reassured her, then whispered in her ear, "I'm mainly staying here for Orlov. He's a bit fragile, and it's best not to mention it to him. He's very concerned about his pride." After Ariana nodded in understanding, Mrs. Wick placed some fruit on the table, announcing simply, "This is fruit." Watson realized that if he hadn't impulsively fought the warlord's son in the strip club, he would be recuperating in a British hospital instead of Sokovia. The war had forced his family to stay in this country. Trying to appease his wife, Watson began peeling an apple for her and struck up a conversation with Ariana about the little girl Maximov from next door. "The Maximovs have been discharged from the hospital," Ariana said after a moment of thought, adding, "They've run out of money." Watson's smile wavered as he handed the peeled apple to Mrs. Wick, who seemed less angry now. He then turned his attention to Ariana, expressing concern. "Will you be sad they're leaving?" "No," Ariana replied, hugging Little Bear. "I'll give her the little bear you gave me. It will help protect her." Watson smiled at his daughter's innocent gesture, though he internally questioned, "Did you give away the gift I gave you?" Unbeknownst to him, both of his gifts had been given away by Ariana. In her arms, the brown bear, seemingly harmless, appeared to hold a deeper meaning in its round black eyes. Over at the Maximov's house, Mr. Maximov noticed his daughter's cheerful mood. The little yellow bear, a gift from Ariana, was now in the hands of the young Maximov girl, who refused to let her brother touch it. Clutching the bear, she ran to her room, covered herself with a quilt, and whispered to the bear, "Little bear, I will still meet Sister Ariana, right?" "It's just a doll," her brother remarked. "It can't talk." Lifting the quilt, the little girl grinned at her brother, unaware that the little yellow bear had slowly nodded its furry hand in response. In the midst of Sokovia's unrest, the Maximov family found a fleeting moment of happiness. Despite not being wealthy, their home was filled with love and warmth, which was more than enough for them. This brief period of calm in Sokovia was a precious respite from the turmoil surrounding them. Fire is considered the most precious treasure. After a long recovery, Watson was finally able to leave the hospital. As he prepared to depart, he overheard Olaf on the phone. "What? Ammunition?" Olaf, who had been suppressing his frustration for a month, couldn't help but smile upon hearing this. "Of course, anything will do," he said. I can even secure deals with and see industries as long as the price is right. After ending the call, Olaf approached Watson, a grin still on his face. Made a deal. Some locals want to buy arms, he explained. Watson cast a silent glance at the dilapidated streets surrounding them. Olaf shrugged. It's just business, right? Watson remained quiet for a moment, his expression serious and devoid of any playfulness. My daughter's friend is here, Yuri, he finally said. Olaf's smile faded, replaced by a look of surprise. Are you serious? I don't want my daughter to one day write a letter that goes unanswered, Watson said, his tone firm and his gaze intense. Bullets can't kill a man, but a daughter's tears can make a man's life a living hell. I want my daughter to be able to keep in touch with her friends. Olaf's smile vanished completely, replaced by a heavy sigh. Well, that's going to cost quite a bit, and it'll damage my reputation if I back out now, he admitted. Nevertheless, he picked up his phone and dialed the number he had just called. Meanwhile, Watson watched Ariana say farewell to a girl clutching a yellow bear. You're going to get more, he thought to himself. With that, their journey came to an end. Chapter 804, The World Witch King's Afterglow. As dusk fell from the sky, John received a letter from home. He glanced at Kiki, reaching out to stroke the dragon's smooth feathers. This action caught Basil's attention. The white owl, driven by jealousy, was already sharpening its talons on the stand. Kiki, visibly frightened, caught John's gaze. John, stroking his chin thoughtfully, eyed Kiki with suspicion. What have you been eating? He inquired. Kiki blinked, opening its mouth in response, prompting John to extract a piece of wool. You haven't been stealing sheep, have you? John sighed, feeling a mix of amusement and exasperation. He knew Kiki's mischievous nature would surface during his family's absence, indulging in the freedom to transform into a fire dragon and feast at a farmer's home. With an efficiency of consuming 3 sheep per meal, Kiki had inadvertently become the stuff of local legend, feared as a goat-eating beast. You better hope Ariana doesn't find out, John warned. As the king of fire dragons, he felt a responsibility to caution Kiki, though he knew the dragon's return to a vegetarian diet would be met with reluctance. Kiki's demeanor immediately turned sluggish at the thought, its large, pitiful eyes seeking John's sympathy. If not for its considerable size, its expression might have been deemed cute. Opening the envelope, John was greeted by Ariana's neat handwriting, a testament to her education under a Cambridge-educated father and a knowledgeable mother. The letter detailed Ariana's recent experiences, leading John to marvel at his family's dynamics, suspecting his mother's influence in Ariana's upbringing. Accompanying Ariana's letter was one from his father, Watson, expressing concern over Ariana's solitude and suggesting the possibility of her attending school. This prompted John to reflect on Ariana's situation. Given her control over her powers, integrating into the Muggle world for education seemed feasible. Ultimately, we should consider Ariana's wishes, John mused, surprised that his father had initiated the conversation. It appeared Watson had grown considerably after his recent experiences, a development that pleased John as his son. Preparing to write a reply, John noticed Kiki's continuous trembling, causing even the table to shake. As a fire dragon, can't you show a little dignity? John chided, turning his attention to Basil, who was glaring at them. After a moment's thought, John decided, Basil, you'll return home in Kiki's place for a while. Basil, though initially displeased, flew to the table, displacing Kiki with a slap, and fixed John with a stare. I won't be at Silverhand Manor for some time, and Ariana hasn't seen you in a while, John explained, soothing Basil with a gentle head rub. Basil seemed to accept this, narrowing its eyes in comfort. Kiki, on the other hand, appeared somewhat wronged by the exchange. John handed the written letter to Basil. Before departing, Basil gave Kiki another disdainful slap, criticizing the dragon's lack of basic owl skills. Kiki, bewildered, wondered why a fire dragon should possess the skills of an owl. John reassured Basil, knowing that the upcoming period would be particularly busy for him. Invitations from all 10 magic schools in the wizarding world awaited his response, with Beauxbatons being his current destination. The following day, John visited Durmstrang, the second of the 3 prestigious magic schools in Europe. Under the leadership of Headmaster Ludwig, who was significantly more popular than his predecessor Karkaroff, Durmstrang was abuzz with excitement. Ludwig had informed the students of the Witch King's impending visit, arranging a welcome ceremony that included a dazzling performance by boys wielding long, thick wooden sticks in the school's hall. Sparks truly flew as the wand touched the ground, igniting orange sparks that blossomed into 2 fire dragons in the air. This grand welcoming ceremony at Durmstrang was a spectacle to behold. The blood-red wizard robes, a stark contrast to Hogwarts' black and Beauxbaton's blue, spoke volumes of Durmstrang's ancient heritage. Despite the less vibrant colors, John couldn't help but applaud. John was scheduled to share his insights on magical creation and research. Surprisingly, the class that should have been engaging left the students with expressions of doubt, questioning their own wizarding abilities. This reminded John of his time at Beauxbaton's, where he encountered similar reactions. Ludwig, too, was unusually silent. "Do you think that even top wizards might struggle with what you've described?" Ludwig inquired, hinting at the vast gap between ordinary individuals and geniuses, and suggesting that John's genius far surpassed that of an average wizard. John, who had gradually come to understand the potential the system offered him, was skeptical of Ludwig's assessment. Later, Ludwig invited John to taste Durmstrang's specialty mulled wine, where they were joined by the Bulgarian Quidditch team seeker, Victor Krum. 5 years after participating in the Tri-Wizard tournament at Hogwarts, Krum had matured into an even more skilled seeker. Their conversation eventually turned to Hermione, with whom Krum had maintained sporadic contact. Krum's affection for Hermione was evident as he reminisced about her. "She works at the House Elf relocation office," John mentioned with a smile, subtly indicating that Hermione was doing well. Krum recalled how Hermione often mentioned John in their letters, to which John responded with a calm affirmation of their friendship, adding silently to himself that she was a friend to his former self. Krum, acknowledging John's compliment, took a sip of his mulled wine. Despite being a top Quidditch seeker, Krum's fame seemed diminished in the presence of the so-called Witch King. Feeling a sudden urge for solitude, John excused himself and wandered down a secluded path in Durmstrang. Krum, turning around, noticed John's absence just as a careless Durmstrang student bumped into him, spilling his drink. The boy, upon picking up the cup, was puzzled by the sunken golden mark on it. John's journey continued to Castro Bucha, a magical school in Brazil, hidden from muggles and resembling a temple made of golden stones. The school was engulfed in the aroma of barbecue, a testament to their love for the culinary art. Despite not personally experiencing it, John was told by Principal Bailey about the deliciously grilled meats, the spicy chili, and the perfect blend of flavors. An interesting aspect of Castro Bucha was their inclusion of football, a muggle sport, brought into the wizarding world by South American muggle-born wizards. John found himself watching a football game, an experience made unique by the magical context, even if he wasn't particularly keen on the sport. Using the catapult spell to bounce the ball into the opposing goal would have certainly added excitement, as it often led to the wizards from both teams casting spells at each other. Principal Bailey had grown accustomed to these matches, evolving into grand duels by the end, and his unwavering optimism continued to inspire the students. Following this event, John had other schools to visit. He was like a busy bee, flitting from one flower to another. Without the aid of a portal, his travels might have stretched into the next year. Before his departure, Principal Bailey prepared a large piece of beef for John to take with him. However, this beef ended up becoming Kiki's ration. The time spent with Wong turned out to be the most nourishing period in Kiki's life. Meanwhile, Basil, who was staying at Wick's house, squinted his eyes in a manner that made Watson, who was nearby, smile. Ariana was lounging on the carpet, idly swinging her feet while she sifted through school brochures. Suddenly, the phone rang. Watson answered it to find Mycroft on the line, inquiring, "The Sokovia rebel warlord was nearly assassinated by a car bomb. Do you have any idea what happened?" Watson blinked and replied innocently, "I don't know either." There was a prolonged silence on the other end of the phone before it finally disconnected. Chapter 805, September 22nd. John emerged from the transmission tunnel and was immediately greeted by the sight of an elephant. For a moment, he wondered if he had arrived at the wrong destination. "Welcome, respected Witch King," the elephant said, bowing its head and bending its front legs in a half-kneel. Before John's eyes, the elephant rapidly shrank and transformed into a man with dark skin and short hair, bare-chested and wrapped in giraffe skin. "My name is Tabor Becky, and I am the president of the Ouagadougou Student Council," the man introduced himself respectfully. "The principal has asked me to welcome you." "Your transfiguration skills are impressive," John chuckled. "Babajid would be proud to have a student like you." "Thank you for the compliment," Tabor replied with a humble smile. "Please, allow me to lead the way." Had it not been for the animal skins, John might have mistaken him for a Frenchman enjoying a coffee on the Champs-Élysées. However, the animal skins were a distinctive feature of this place, not the usual school robes. Ouagadougou was nestled on Moon Mountain, a location chosen for its seclusion from the bustling world of Muggles. Babajid's concern that John might not find the place was not unfounded. Tabor explained, "There's a country not far from our school. To avoid detection, we've had to completely conceal the school's presence. But there are advantages, too. Some wizards are born in that country, and there's also a peculiar herb," Tabor continued. "I've heard the king there possesses extraordinary powers, unlike anything ordinary people have. Though, that might just be a rumor," he added with a relaxed shrug. John found himself intrigued by the country as well. Ouagadougou was a masterclass in concealment, its level of secrecy unmatched by any other school. Entering the cave, they were greeted by the sight of a vast waterfall and various birds soaring through the sky. The school was built in harmony with nature, its students practicing transfiguration in green uniforms. Ouagadougou stood out not only for its unique location, but also for its independence from wands. Unlike European magic schools, where wands were the primary tools for casting spells, Ouagadougou students were adept at spellcasting without them. Their wands served more as magical accessories, a testament to their exceptional transfiguration skills and deep connection with nature. John observed a student transform into a rhino and join another real rhino to drink water, a perfect example of the harmonious coexistence between humans and nature. "Welcome, my friend, venerable Witch King," greeted Babajid Akinbad, approaching John with open arms. He paused, unsure whether to kiss John's ring or hug him. "I'm still more accustomed to this," John said, extending his right hand. Babajid's smile widened as he shook John's hand. "Welcome to Ouagadougou. Your prowess in transfiguration is well known," he said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "You're the only person in the world known to transform into a dragon. I must encourage all our students to study diligently. It would also be beneficial if you could remind the students of Ouagadougou to register their transformation forms in the future," John suggested. The variety of transformed animals made it challenging to distinguish between a wizard and a creature. Babajid laughed, acknowledging that such a suggestion might not align with Ouagadougou's unconventional approach to development. The rarity of registered animagi in the century highlighted the reluctance of many to reveal their animal forms. John mused that without a formal role like a professor, few would bother to register at all, aware of several unregistered animagi himself. The school resembled a zoo, teeming with a diverse array of animals. Babajid even pointed out a meerkat, claiming it was one of his students. Moments later, a nearby meerkat stood up, silently transforming back into a student, further blurring the lines between the magical and the natural world at Ouagadougou. A fourth-grade student announced, "Principal, I am Hay, heir." Babajide, who had been bitten by a meerkat, felt quite embarrassed. John, on the other hand, was popular not for his status as the Witch King, but for his unique animagus form. As the world's only giant dragon animagus, he garnered more respect from the students of Ouagadougou, who were enthusiasts of transfiguration, than even the principal. During a class, John observed the animals arranged in rows below him. After a moment of contemplation, he said, "Maybe I should transform myself too." To the astonishment of the students, scales began to form on John's body, and within seconds, he transformed into a huge golden dragon. All the animals bowed in homage to John, making him feel as if he had become the king of beasts. In his demonstration on transfiguration, John transformed into a half-dragon state, leaving the students in awe. In this form, he could easily lift an elephant. He then showcased visceral deformation, a technique that left Ouagadougou students utterly amazed. John's ability to transform his internal organs into those of animals without the use of potions and still maintaining the appearance of a wizard was unparalleled. This demonstration led the students to question their own understanding of transfiguration, and even Babajid, a powerful wizard and a graduate of Ouagadougou, felt a lack of confidence. As the class concluded, Babajid presented John with gifts, including a huge piece of strange metal that had reportedly fallen from the sky. John discovered that the metal was extremely hard and possessed unique properties, such as the ability to absorb shock and heat, which piqued his interest. He thanked Babajid for the gift. Babajid mentioned another piece of the metal, over 20 meters long, that was considered a nuisance due to its indestructibility and immobility. With a busy schedule, John couldn't linger in Ouagadougou. He memorized the location, opened a transmission channel, and departed. In the days that followed, John visited another magic school, the Ban Ede School of Magic, as September drew to a close and the migration to the City of Wizards approached. The school, populated by many wizards but few witches, welcomed John warmly. The headmaster, a sullen wizard who always seemed to be plotting, maintained a smile in John's presence. As the school prepared for an upcoming league, John suspected his invitation was an attempt by the headmaster to glean information about the competition. Regrettably, John informed him that he had no knowledge to share. At the Ban Ede School of Magic, John lectured a group of diligent students on potions. The attendance was low, as the headmaster had selected only a few top contestants for the session, leaving the rest to their regular classes. John was slightly disconcerted by this exclusivity, but focused on imparting knowledge that left the young wizards questioning their previous understanding. The headmaster's forced smile in John's presence only added to the odd atmosphere. John, undeterred, prepared to visit the next magic school, Kodos Dora's School of Magic, located in his mother's hometown. Chapter 806, The Sturdy Quidditch of Kodos Dora's School of Magic. Kodos Dora's School of Magic, akin to Hogwarts, was established to provide sanctuary for wizards from Muggle persecution, albeit slightly later than its British counterpart. The school, a grand castle blending Byzantine and Baroque architectural styles, exuded a certain chill even before the onset of winter. John chose not to enter directly, but instead appeared on the outskirts of the magical institution. There, he encountered a man riding a brown bear, shirtless and fording a river with a look of determination. Upon noticing John, the man on the bear hastened his pace and called out in the local language, "Who are you and what brings you here?" Responding in the same tongue, with a hint of a smile, John said, "I'm here on an invitation. If you could guide me to Kodos Torres, I'd be grateful." The man seemed surprised and hesitated before replying, "There's no Kodos Torres here. You must be mistaken." "Is that so? Then could you enlighten me on any other magic school near St. Petersburg besides Kodos Dora's?" John inquired, his smile unwavering as he observed the man's expression change. After a moment of silence, the man inquired about John's wand. John, revealing the Elder Wand, asked, "What's there to fear, Gatekeeper?" Relieved at the sight of the wand, the Gatekeeper shared his concerns about recent monster sightings in the area, which had resulted in several broken wands among the wizards. "I'm a squib, so I didn't flee with my wand," he admitted, leading John towards the school and explaining the need for discretion. "The school was founded as a refuge from witch hunters. I thought they were a thing of the past," the Gatekeeper lamented, revealing that even the school's principal had narrowly escaped an encounter. John, feeling somewhat embarrassed by the comparison to his uncle and others, noted the Gatekeeper's muscular build, a testament to the resilience of squibs from warrior nations. Upon reaching Kodos Dora's Magic School, the grandeur of the castle, with its Byzantine influences and the students' uniforms of purple, white, and black, was striking. The students, speaking with familiar accents, hurried past, eager for the upcoming Quidditch match. John, sensing he could navigate the rest of the way on his own, thanked the Gatekeeper and offered him a card as a token of gratitude. The Gatekeeper initially refused, but upon inspecting the card, which bore the words "The City of Wizards" in dark golden ink, he was taken aback, unable to recall when he had accepted it. At the Quidditch pitch, The excitement was palpable as students cheered for their teams. John watched in amazement as the players, mounted on what appeared to be actual trees rather than traditional broomsticks, competed fiercely. The sight of tree branches falling to the ground during collisions was both shocking and intriguing. The game was intense, with one player being sent off for hitting the goal with his broom. Despite his protests of an accidental maneuver, the referee, losing patience, expelled the player with a flick of his wand. The match, however, was not to last. The seeker ending the game by catching the snitch, John couldn't help but marvel at the intensity of the Quidditch match, acknowledging the robustness of the sport's traditions. It seemed that even fatal accidents could occur without much surprise. In the midst of the excitement, the principal of Kodos Torres, clad in a purple satin robe, suddenly remembered his appointment with the Witch King and hurried out. Despite his advanced age, he moved with surprising speed, almost like a gust of wind, and soon ran into John, who had just finished watching the game. "Sorry, respected Witch King," the principal panted, out of breath from his rush. John shook his head, expressing his amazement at the game. "My eyes have been opened this time." Hearing John speak the local language, the principal's eyes widened in surprise. "I didn't expect the Witch King to speak our language. My mother is from this country," John explained with a smile, revealing his half-blood heritage. This revelation immediately created a sense of camaraderie between them. After all, sharing a common nationality often brings people closer than any other connection. The principal's enthusiasm grew as he inquired about John's mother. When John mentioned he was from St. Petersburg, the principal laughed, suggesting that, given his long residence in the area, he might know her, even among muggles. "No, you definitely don't know them," John replied, subtly hinting at his family's reclusive nature by glancing at the principal's mismatched shoes and looking away. "Oh, really?" The principal seemed a bit disappointed, admitting that he might not know them after all, but expressed regret that he couldn't visit John's family due to the presence of dangerous creatures outside. John thought to himself that his uncles would have been warm hosts to the old man, considering their significant role in the establishment of the school. As part of his visit, John was expected to give a lecture, a task he found challenging, especially since the subject was divination. Professor Donatella, an esteemed fortune-teller, and her students attended the lecture. Despite not being able to see the future as directly as John or Grindelwald, Donatella's expertise in various divination methods, including astrology, was well regarded, surpassing that of former Hogwarts Professor Trelawney. John found divination to be a difficult subject to teach, as his methods were more aligned with Trelawney's natural talent rather than the structured techniques he seldom used. However, to his surprise, the lecture was met with admiration from the students, and Professor Donatella praised him as the most insightful prophet in the magical world today. Confused by the unexpected praise, John questioned his own performance, feeling out of place amidst the compliments. Meanwhile, outside the Kodos Torres School of Magic, a cloaked wizard gazed into the distance, waiting for the arrival of the Witch King. This wizard, belonging to an exiled family, silently uttered the name John Wick, a reminder of a painful past they had never forgotten. Chapter 807, The Exiled Loyalist. The old man was brimming with enthusiasm, compelling John to promise an introduction to individuals from his maternal clan. As the Witch King, John could only assure him that such a meeting would occur in the future. "Shouldn't my uncles and the others be approached with caution?" John pondered as he exited Cardosdora's magic school. The sight of the principal made him hesitant to leave. Given the witch's elusive nature and formidable strength, which made them impervious even to death curses, their fear was understandable. Yet John was eager to meet his uncles, acknowledging their significant role in the Magic Kingdom's recognition. As John left the Creek Valley, he halted, his gaze settling on a wizard standing to his right. Soon, more wizards emerged, totaling 5. They remained silent, their eyes fixed on John. Maintaining his composure, John remarked, "It seems I must acquaint myself with you." "John Wick," a voice rasped, reminiscent of a vulture perched on a dead tree, eyeing a decaying carcass with greed. The old man nudged his tribesmen aside, focusing his attention on John, whose expression shifted. Sean Shafiq, the old man revealed as he lifted his hood, exposing his aged face. Once a prominent figure in Nocturne Alley, he had opposed the king and became the first to be exiled by the Witch King. The harsh cold of their exile made the old vulture's knees ache. Branded as an unenemy, his soul bore a curse that barred him from ever returning to his homeland. Shafiq glanced at John with icy eyes and inquired in a hoarse, unpleasant voice, "I heard you defeated Dumbledore and became the Witch King of the Demon Dharma world?" His laugh, akin to fingernails scraping a blackboard, was harsh and unappealing. "Oh," John looked at Shafiq's tribe and chuckled, "your sources seem outdated." He continued, "The Shafiq family still holds considerable esteem here." John's hand emerged from his sleeve, the Alexandrite ring on his right hand catching the light as he raised it. "You may kiss the ring as a gesture of your family's submission," John stated calmly. Sean Shafiq's expression darkened, and his tribesmen drew their wands. With a somber gaze, Sean approached John and said, "I haven't forgotten the humiliation you inflicted upon me. I've been watching you since you arrived in this land." He paused before John, his tone menacing. What would happen if the wizards knew their revered king was associated with the infamous demon hunter Jovanovich? John narrowed his eyes. "I doubt that will come to light, right?" The tension between them was palpable until Sean Shafiq broke the silence. "Indeed, they won't know. Of course, my king." A smile cracked the old vulture's grim facade as he respectfully bowed and pressed a loyal kiss to the Alexandrite. "The Shafiq family will never betray you, as surely as the moon will not leave the sky, and fish will not leave the water." Shafiq's clansmen, wands pointed at their hearts, knelt and bowed their heads in respect. "I'm pleased, Sean," John chuckled. "You've chosen wisely." "Power is paramount, Witch King," Sean Shafiq replied respectfully. "Your strength has long impressed us." He added, "Upon noticing wizards in this country, it became clear that you are the one true leader of the magical world. Your trust in the Shafiq family also demonstrates the king's generosity." From the moment Sean Shafiq sensed the presence of a wizard in the land of the furry bear, his soul resonated with a calling. The appearance of the formidable demon hunter in Shafiq territory clarified the situation for the former master of Nocturne Alley. In today's world, the Shafiq family had no room for dissent. Aligning with the Witch King brought them rewards, a stark and ironic reality. The former adversary, now bearing a soul cursed with exile, had become compsant. In a foreign country, loyalty to the king was a matter of interest and power. The emergence of two influential figures convinced Shafiq of the king's authority. The choice was clear: align with the king or theft, ace oblivion. Shafiq, though exiled from England, remained a part of the magical world. Understanding the stakes, Sean Shafiq, despite his greed, was no fool. Lacking the courage to oppose, he chose to become one of the king's most devoted followers. John, unsurprised by this decision, knew that in such a harsh environment, the Shafiq family would opt for survival over suffering. Securing Shafiq's allegiance also allowed John to exert some control over the country. Now, the Shafiq family was the wizarding family closest to this nation, even meeting its new leader and earning Sean Shafiq the title of magic consultant, a testament to the leader's boldness. John admired individuals who were not driven by emotions, much like his appreciation for Mycroft. The Shafiqs established a new residence in the St. Petersburg region, setting up trading areas to facilitate the settlement and financial prosperity of wizards. However, they occasionally encountered a witcher, like the time John saw his Uncle Valerie observing the wizards in the trading area. "Uncle Valerie," John called out, causing Valerie to clench his fists in surprise, thinking he was hallucinating. Valerie, always seen in short sleeves, showcasing his muscular arms, had once knocked out a giant with a single punch. His strength was undeniable. Ignored at first, John approached and tapped his shoulder, leading to a joyful and surprised embrace from Valerie, who commented on John's unchanged appearance and expressed relief that John wasn't weak like his father. Valerie, known for his straightforwardness, had even proposed wrestling bears with John. Upon inquiring about Valerie's presence, John learned of his task to clean up dishonest wizards on his father's orders, a mission stemming from his grandfather's promise to protect the country's magical order. The challenge, however, was distinguishing friend from foe, leading Valerie to confront any wizard he encountered. John clarified that the area was a legitimate wizard trading zone, a fact Valerie was unaware of despite previous visits. This revelation explained why Shan Shafiq and his associates had kept their distance. Acknowledging the designated legitimate areas marked by flags, Valerie understood and insisted on taking John back home, eager to share the joy of his return with his father. The hidden wizards, relieved at their departure, praised the Witch King for averting danger with mere words, interpreting the situation as a negotiation at the monster's lair. Their admiration for the Witch King grew, celebrating the peace he promised and delivered. John's arrival at the Jovanovich residence brought immense joy, especially to the elderly Jovanovich, who personally served his grandson vodka. During the visit, Uncle Seriosha lamented the failed attempts to deliver gifts to Ariana, a concern John had not been aware of. To clarify the situation, Ariana's presence was not yet required. Meanwhile, Uncle Alexei expressed curiosity about the wizarding world. With a snap of his fingers, John conjured a flag representing the Magic Kingdom. A place flying this flag is a common meeting ground for wizards, he explained. He also shared stories about the Kados Dorez Magic School, which was so secluded that some, including the unwitting Andre, mistook it for a haven for dark wizards. I always thought it was a gathering place for evil wizards, Andre admitted with an awkward chuckle. Jovanovich expressed his desire to host a grand dinner in John's honor, but John was pressed for time. It was then that John noticed an unfamiliar face at Jovanovich's residence. "Who is she?" he inquired. Seriosha, warming himself with a sip of vodka, replied, "She was rescued by Andre." The woman in question was in her 20s, with a stern demeanor. However, her mobility seemed impaired, causing her to pause at the threshold. Upon hearing his name, Andre muttered a curse. "That fat man just left her at our doorstep," he grumbled. Alexei, addressing Andre with a note of caution, revealed, "This girl has been trained as a professional killer. You'd better watch out." Andre, flustered, protested, "I told you, I'm not interested in her." John, observing the situation, remarked thoughtfully, "I think there's something amiss with her." "Oh? What's wrong?" Andre immediately turned his attention to his nephew, eager for insight. Chapter 808, The Seeds of Control. The seeds scattered across the globe by the Witch King were initially thought to be a form of mind control. However, upon closer inspection, it seemed more akin to brainwashing, reminiscent of methods used by Muggles. "Yadani, what do you see?" Old Jovanovich inquired, noticing his grandson's troubled expression. He reassured him, "Just think of it as Uncle Andre lending you a hand." Jovanovich's trust in John was unwavering. John, a miraculous child, was considered a blessing from the heavens. After emerging victorious from a trial, he brought back the complete legacy of a demon hunter from another realm, revitalizing Jovanovich's waning career. In truth, John was the genuine Witcher, embodying the role more fully than Jovanovich ever could. Despite Andre's protests, his gaze lingered on John. The girl before them had been subjected to brainwashing. Jovanovich, skilled in combat, lacked the finesse for dealing with such delicate matters. "It's a simple task," John declared, approaching the girl, who watched him silently. Placing a finger on her forehead, he whispered, "It's dawn. It's time for you to wake up." Activating his psychic magic, John's spell reordered the chaos in the girl's mind, clearing the haze induced by drugs and brainwashing. The confusion in the girl's eyes vanished, replaced by a look of bewilderment and panic. She stumbled backward, collapsing in a fit of terror and pain. "It's incredible," Seriosha exclaimed, amazed by the transformation. "I've never seen her react like this before, even when I broke her foot." "So, it was you who did that?" John realized, having previously thought the injury was accidental. He quickly healed her foot with a spell, Episki, and the bones mended seamlessly. Turning to see Uncle Andre's concerned expression, John reassured him, "It's okay." The girl, now fearful, tentatively asked, "Andre? Do you recognize me?" Andre asked, surprised. The girl nodded, recalling the day she was shot and left in the snow, where Andre had found her and saved her life. Memories of her ordeal flooded back, the terrifying red house haunting her like a nightmare. She pleaded, "Please, don't make me go back there. I don't want to return to that place." Andre, usually unflinching in the face of death, found himself at a loss and retorted, "I never said I'd send you back, you foolish woman." Her relief was palpable upon hearing his response. Looking to his father for guidance, Andrei found old Jovanovich indifferent. This woman is one of Drykov's widows. If she wishes to stay, let her stay. Jovanovich held no fear for Drykov or his associates, marking the end of their journey to his homeland. Before departing, the rescued girl, Alana, sought a way to break the control, hoping to save others like her. Unfortunately, John's methods were beyond the reach of Muggles. Anticipating that Alana might become his aunt, John provided her with a list of ingredients for a potion that could be replicated using Muggle technology, believing that finding Andrei a partner would bring joy to Mrs. Wick. The school trip continued, with the final stops including the Mesmer School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where John humorously noted the principal's resemblance to Snape, albeit with a less acerbic personality. The journey concluded at Ilvermorny School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where John found the school song peculiar yet memorable, a fitting end to their magical tour. John observed the sorting ceremony at a wizarding school, which utilized statues of each house for sorting, a method he found to be more elaborate than Hogwarts' simple act of placing a hat on a student's head. He mused that Hogwarts' ceremony could benefit from some added mystique or interactive elements. His journey then took him to the Tarot Magic Vocational and Technical School, a place that, from the outside, resembled a village more than a school. Here, magical creatures roamed freely, some even lacking heads, yet still fluffy and alive. John sensed a dormant energy in this place, a stark contrast to the bustling life he had seen elsewhere. Carrying a copy of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander, John found the creatures in the East intriguing, and his fluent speech left the students impressed, as if he were a native speaker rather than a foreigner. With his visit to the Tarot Magic Vocational and Technical School, John concluded his global tour, having spread his ideas and knowledge like seeds across various magical institutions, hoping they would one day bloom into influential forces within the magical world. Upon returning to Silverhand Manor on September 25th, after nearly a month of travel, John found his pets, Riddle and Tom, had grown closer in his absence. The tranquility was interrupted by Cheeky, the oversized owl, whose appearance had changed significantly, now sporting shiny, plump feathers. Attempting to address Cheeky's apparent weight gain with a spell, John only managed to drench the owl, causing a commotion among the pets. The situation escalated when Basil, another of John's magical creatures, attacked Cheeky in a display of dominance, leading to chaos in the room. Amidst the turmoil, John received a letter informing him of his father's discharge from the hospital, opting for home care due to his habit of sneaking out. The letter, from Mrs. Wick, also mentioned the positive development of Ariana deciding to attend school and hinted at the need for Cheeky's return, as Basil's adventures had started to attract Muggle attention, raising concerns over the welfare of local owls. This narrative captures the whimsical yet complex life of John, a character deeply embedded in the magical world, navigating the challenges of pet ownership, family dynamics, and the broader implications of his actions on both the magical and non-magical communities. John had an owl feather pillow. After reading the letter, he glanced at Basil, who was still disciplining Kiki. "Okay, just 2 more hits and it'll be fine," John intervened, stopping Basil from continuing his harsh treatment. The rescued Kiki, in a panic, struggled free, flew behind John, and huddled there for safety. Despite a fire dragon's resilience, it couldn't withstand Basil's strength, which was capable of tearing apart steel. Basil, relentless in his approach, moved towards John, step by step, until he was close. John rubbed Basil's head and chuckled. "I know you've been working hard lately." Basil displayed a hint of dissatisfaction, but still leaned in honestly. Noticing Kiki peeking out, Basil's eyes sharpened instantly, causing Kiki to shrink back in fear. "Kiki, go back to Wick's house and tell Dad that I've sent him some specialties," John instructed. Kiki, sensing a reprieve, flew out hastily, so quickly that he missed the letter John had prepared for him. John watched the letter, and Basil, understanding the situation, volunteered to pick it up and chase after Kiki. Upon returning, Basil seemed to have calmed down. However, John was left wondering how Kiki had fared after the encounter. Just then, Tangmi entered the room with a flattering smile. John immediately recognized the man's ulterior motives. Chapter 809, Tang Mi's Twisted Thoughts. Upon entering the room, Tang Mi glanced around nervously before rubbing his hands together. His guilty expression led John to suspect that Tang Mi was about to propose something quite audacious. "Tell me," John said, allowing Basil to perch on the owl stand and turning his attention to Tang Mi. "Ahem, sir, I have a suggestion, though I'm not sure if it's appropriate," Tang Mi said, smiling sheepishly. To an observer, his demeanor might suggest innocence, but John remained silent, trying to discern Tang Mi's true intentions. Seeing that John didn't respond, Tang Mi felt compelled to continue. "The Silver Wolf Roar Club has been established, and we've selected our team members. I was wondering, could we arrange a friendly match?" John was taken aback, realizing Tang Mi's request was not ill-intentioned. "After the team has been formed and trained, whom do you wish to challenge?" he inquired. Tang Mi, as the club's manager, was deeply invested in its success. The Silver Wolf Roar Club was struggling financially, having managed to scrape together just enough for 7 firebolt brooms and their team uniforms. Tang Mi's salary for the next 20 years wouldn't cover the club's expenses, but he was determined to build its reputation by competing against formidable teams. Despite expecting to lose, he believed these matches would help the team members identify their weaknesses and improve more rapidly. John, sensing Tang Mi's unease, wondered what was making him feel so guilty. It soon became clear that Tang Mi had ambitions beyond a simple friendly match. Upon receiving John's approval, Tang Mi's face lit up with excitement. Puddlemere United, they're highly ranked this year and have a strong moral character. Competing against Laco Malfoy, a high-profile player, would quickly elevate our club's reputation, Tang Mi explained. John was unsure whether this was confidence or arrogance, but decided to support the club's ambitious goal. Tang Mi then boldly suggested, "Sir, since we're heading to the Wizarding City, could we possibly organize a lively Quidditch game there? Being the first team to compete in the Wizarding City would greatly benefit the Silver Wolf Roar Club." John, half amused, asked, "Do you have any other suggestions?" He suspected Tang Mi's motives extended beyond the club's interests. As expected, Tang Mi chuckled. "Well, the Magic Tower in the Wizarding City offers a stunning view. Perhaps we could lend it to you as a wedding venue?" John's smile vanished. "Aren't you overstepping a bit?" he asked, his tone turning stern. "Sir," Tang Mi replied earnestly, "I'm going to be a father. I want to give Oz the most memorable wedding possible, one that she'll be proud of in the years to come." John pondered Tang Mi's words, sensing the sincerity but also recognizing the irresponsibility of his actions. "While your sentiment is touching, it seems you've put the cart before the horse," John remarked, hinting at Tang Mi's premarital situation. Tang Mi felt a twinge of embarrassment. He believed such matters were common in the West and not worth fussing over. However, the symbolic significance of the Magic Tower made it an inappropriate venue for their wedding. Still, Tang Mi persisted, hoping to secure Silver Hand Manor as an alternative wedding venue. John's pointed question, "Do you have money?" effectively silenced him. Tang Mi, who had been scraping by, knew all too well the importance of financial stability, especially in the eyes of someone like Gauss, who valued wealth. Reflecting on Gauss's successful retirement, Tang Mi realized the complexity of his situation. On September 26th, with only a few days left before the journey to the Wizarding City, excitement was palpable. The fireworks from Weasley's Wizarding Wheezes had sold out, signaling the high anticipation among the wizarding community. However, students attending magic schools, including Hogwarts, would miss out on this event, though they had their own excitement with the school-level league. Curiosity was piqued at Hogwarts over why Professor Slughorn, the headmaster, had secluded himself for a week, a question even Professor McGonagall, the deputy headmistress, couldn't answer. Rumors swirled that Slughorn had been frequently visiting Snape's office after hours, adding an ominous air to Snape's already intimidating presence in class. In search of answers, students turned to Professor Longbottom, the approachable herbology teacher. Neville Longbottom, recalling his own fears of Snape as a student, could only offer that Slughorn's behavior was indeed strange. During this time of uncertainty, Astoria Greengrass, a first-year Gryffindor girl, approached Neville with a message from Professor Sprout, cutting the lesson short to the students' dismay. Before leaving, Neville wished Astoria, now the head girl of Slytherin and known as Almighty Astoria, success in the school league. Astoria, admired for her maturity and beauty, had become a role model for many girls at Hogwarts. Meanwhile, Snape was grappling with his own frustrations, not only from being passed over for the Defense Against the Dark Arts position, but also from Slughorn's relentless pursuit to involve him in a dubious project. Slughorn, appearing disheveled and desperate, tried to entice Snape with the promise of recognition and awards, comparing him favorably to other notable figures. However, Snape was skeptical, aware of the project's unrealistic goals and Slughorn's misguided motivations. As the school league approached, Snape pointedly reminded Slughorn of the need to present a respectable appearance, prompting Slughorn to hurriedly improve his appearance. After Slughorn left, Snape's attention turned to a mysterious box on his table, a box that could only be opened 3 times. Despite his curiosity, Snape restrained himself, leaving the box unopened. Tearing open the scar, the bleeding in his heart never ceased. Beneath the surface of outward restraint, there lay a constant yearning fueled by greed. This was a curse bestowed upon him by the great Witch King, a curse that was both heartbreaking and a test of forbearance and restraint. Chapter 810, I Need a New Chair. September 28th. Time marches on like a benevolent giant, taking each step with deliberate grace. Out of the blue, John declared, I need a chair. Tangmi paused, casting a silent glance at John's old chair. With all due respect, my lord, your chair was replaced just 2 days ago. I didn't mention that, John retorted, giving Tangmi a pointed look. Don't pretend you're unaware that you took the old one. It's currently in the Silver Wolf Roaring Club office, Tangmi admitted, unable to confess his true motive for keeping it as a collectible. I require a superior chair, John stated. I could commission a custom one, Tangmi suggested, reaching for his pager. The werewolf craftsman would be honored to craft it for you. No, that won't be necessary, John decided after a moment's thought. I'll handle it myself. Do it yourself? Tangmi asked, puzzled. But you are the Witch King. Only I am suited for this task, John concluded, swiftly changing the subject. How are the preparations for the migration going? Everything is in place, Tangmi reported. Apart from a few schools and residential areas, all has been meticulously planned. The world's leading wizards have arrived in the Wizarding City via the magic train. Rita Skeeter and her team are there to document this historic event. Gilderoy Lockhart has expressed a desire for a golden statue of himself in the Wizarding City. John interjected, we can disregard that last part. Understood, my lord. John, lost in thought, toyed with his ring, his mind on the Wizarding City. Unlike the decentralized management of the past, the Wizarding City demanded a more unified approach. The day soon came to an end, and Tangmi left for the day. As the most powerful wizard alive, John, the king, required no protection. Tangmi's role had evolved from security and enforcement to more administrative duties. Times change. Why haven't you turned on the light? The question echoed through the darkened manor. John sat alone in the hall of Silverhand Manor, enveloped in darkness, having grown to prefer the solitude. Heinrich's arrival was detectable even without light, his presence known before he even set foot in the Magic Kingdom. In the dim light, John saw Heinrich's youthful face and laughed. Perhaps this isn't wise, he mused, snapping his fingers to illuminate the room. Heinrich settled into another sofa, and John greeted him with a smile. We'll be meeting in a few days. But I sense that you, my king, are uneasy, Heinrich observed, his dark golden eyes meeting John's. It's a significant undertaking, John admitted with a smile. I worry about executing it flawlessly. You're already exemplary, Heinrich reassured him, as both a beacon of light and a king. Edgar shines brighter because of you, and you've transformed the magical world. I'm a selfish person, Heinrich, John confessed. The weight of expectations dims when I fail to meet them. Then don't fret, Heinrich advised earnestly. Just be yourself, my king. You're not the first to tell me that, John said, his smile fading. Yet the fear remains. In the solitude of his manor, the Witch King of the magical world voiced his inner turmoil. Failing to meet expectations, to do right by the wizarding community, he mused, a touch of melancholy in his voice. I've favored the werewolves excessively, which seems unfair to the wizards, but I can't let old Jack's legacy crumble. John understood the complexity of emotions, the Witch King capable of reading minds, yet seldom using this power. He feared discovering a lack of genuine affection, contemplating if ignorance might lighten his burden. However, the real fear lay in encountering those whose sincerity matched their outward expressions, compelling John to strive for excellence. Caught between conflicting loyalties, John gazed at the crystal chandelier's gems. You once questioned whether I was worthy of being Edgar's light, Heinrich reminded him. My answer remains unchanged, Heinrich declared, Ed with reverence. Edgar's light, the light that never wavers. Whether he becomes a wise king or a demon king who brings destruction upon the world, Edgar will always follow the path of that light. Among the members of the Star Club, Heinrich stood out distinctly. While they were all John's classmates and friends, Heinrich alone considered himself a loyal follower, taking pride in his role as a deputy from the very first day they met. Unlike Percy, who was motivated by mutual benefits, or Fleur, who was drawn by friendship, Heinrich's allegiance was unwavering. No matter the path John chose, Heinrich Edgar would be there, steadfast in his support. Like Grindelwald and Voldemort, Edgar's devotion was pure. He sought out the light, recognized it, and followed it, whether it meant staying in the darkness or being rescued from despair by the light. Edgar harbored no regrets. Be yourself, my king, Heinrich said, a smile gracing his pale, vampire-like face. Edgar will follow you unswervingly, free from guilt or self-reproach. John diverted his gaze from the chandelier to Heinrich's sincere and passionate expression. What do you think about changing the chair? John asked abruptly. Heinrich's eyes moved to the sofa where John was sitting. Seeing John's relieved smile, Heinrich understood. Indeed, just be yourself. There's no need to overthink or try to meet others' expectations. On September 30th, Basil was chasing Tom around the vast manor, trying to avoid having his ears grabbed. Tom's rapid movements caused him to slip and crash into a wall, leaving him dazed. Riddle observed their antics from his position near the chandelier, detached but attentive. Meanwhile, John was occupied with something in the room where the Horcruxes had been stored. He watched as the metal slowly melted, striking the sword of Silver Wake. This metal is not only hard, but possesses magical properties, making it an excellent material for alchemy, he noted. However, a problem arose with the speed of production, which suggested that crafting the sword of Silver Wake into a more ornate piece would not be a quick task. The magic stone on the hilt was to be used in the creation of this chair, implying that the number of magic stones should be limited. John retrieved the magic stone from the Holy Grail, musing, the cup still hasn't been returned to Hogwarts. He glanced at Hufflepuff's golden cup, which he had previously taken out, deciding to bring it with him to the school league. The nature of the school-level league remained a mystery, but John hoped Professor Slughorn would provide some pleasant surprises. With the addition of the Philosopher's Stone, including a large piece of blue Philosopher's Stone, John prepared for the passage of time, anticipating the outcomes of his endeavors. Chapter 811, The Great Migration of the Magical World. October had arrived, bringing with it an air of excitement. In both Nocturne Alley and Diagon Alley, preparations were underway, with fireworks being set up at Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. The shop, which rarely closed, was now a flurry of activity as the Weasleys packed their luggage. Hurry, hurry, we're going to be late, Mrs. Weasley, donning her most elegant hat, urged her children as they prepared to leave. Mr. Weasley, keys in hand, reassured them. Don't worry, kids, my car will get us there in time. Angelina Johnson, puzzled by the family's choice, asked, why don't we just wait for the transfer instead of taking a car? George, with a matter-of-fact tone, replied, come on, Angelina, that's the latest train. We'll get to enjoy the fresh air freshener. Annoyed, Angelina retorted, Fred, if you talk to me like that again, I'll make you regret it. Fred, standing beside her with his arms spread wide in disbelief, corrected her. I'm Fred, Angelina. Embarrassed, she suggested, maybe you should buy some different clothes. This joke isn't funny, Fred said, crossing his arms in disapproval. Charlie, trying to diffuse the tension, joked about their indistinguishable appearance, only to be met with protests from both George and Fred. Amidst the chaos, Ron, engrossed in his Auror training manual, was teased by Fred. Despite the messy start, the family eventually piled into the car, which now seemed much more crowded than before. Thankfully, Mr. Weasley had a solution and handed another set of keys to Charlie, cautioning him, "Don't mess with my car, son." Ron, Charlie, and Ginny took the second car, with Ron in the passenger seat. Noticing Charlie's hesitation with the new model, Ron asked if he could drive it. Charlie's joking response briefly alarmed Ron before they all set off, passing under Stoat Mountain. There, they encountered Luna Lovegood and her father, Xenophilius, in a yellow beetle. After a brief exchange of greetings, the Lovegoods' car unexpectedly sped forward due to Xenophilius's heavy foot on the accelerator. In a surprising turn of events, a wizard chess piece shaped like Watson Wick emerged from under the seat, taking control of the steering wheel. Introducing himself as the King's Steward in Magic Car driving mode, he expertly navigated the vehicle, leaving the Weasleys in awe at the sudden transformation from novice drivers to skilled racers. Meanwhile, wizards from around the world began to gather at various stations. The Weasley family, running late, hurried to King's Cross Station, with a visibly pregnant Angelina showing remarkable determination. Upon their arrival, they found the Lovegoods already waiting, with Luna sporting a quirky yellow beetle keychain. As the clock struck 9, a powerful gust of wind heralded the arrival of a seemingly endless train, which came to a halt after 30 seconds, marking the beginning of their journey. The brand-new car door swung open, and the sound of the radio filled the air. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Albatross. Please ensure you are seated securely and hold on to your luggage. You may store your luggage under the seat or in the overhead compartments. We wish you a pleasant journey. Wizards stepped inside, their luggage magically levitating to its designated spot above each seat. "It feels like we're on the Hogwarts Express," Ginny sighed nostalgically. As the door sealed shut, the radio announced, "Next stop, Paris." A sudden thrust from behind was quickly stabilized, and suddenly, the floor and walls around them turned transparent. They found themselves suspended over water, eliciting a scream from Mrs. Weasley, who feared she might fall. Tentatively touching the transparent floor with her feet, she realized it was solid and safe. The rapid movement allowed them to take in the breathtaking scenery around them, making the trip feel even more worthwhile. In just 10 minutes, they had traveled from London to Paris, leaving even the French wizards in awe. Luna, gazing out the window, was captivated by a pod of whales that seemed to be racing the train. "Look, what is that?" Ron, setting aside his book, pointed excitedly at a strange structure emerging from the sea. An obelisk rose slowly, and as the train hurtled towards it without slowing, a portal opened with a burst of blue and purple light. The train plunged into the portal and emerged over an endless sea, shrouded in clouds and mist. After navigating through the fog for half an hour, their surroundings suddenly cleared, revealing a city sprawled across the water, dominated by a towering structure. The sight drew gasps of wonder from everyone. The flag of the magical kingdom fluttered atop the tower, signaling their entry into another realm. George and Fred were particularly fascinated by the enormous purple crystals scattered around, which seemed to contain reflections of wizarding gatherings from all over the world, including images of their own shop, Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. The train glided through a tall archway spanning the waterway, coming to a gentle stop. "Oh my God, it's Professor Sprout!" Angelina exclaimed, pointing towards the bridge. The former head of Hufflepuff was there, waving. Now retired from her herbology position, she seemed to have plenty of time on her hands. Professor Trelawney and the Silverhand Elder were also present, continuing their pursuits of drinking and divination. Stepping out of the station, the passengers were like curious children exploring a new world, their luggage trailing behind. Luna was greeted by a bent-horned Snorlax, which made a sound reminiscent of a cow and chased after her. The streets outside the station were a blend of ancient and modern, with stone and asphalt roads lit by copper street lamps, while towering buildings displayed huge screens welcoming them to the wizarding city. A hippogriff, complete with a meter around its neck, descended from the sky, inspecting Luna curiously. A man with a loudspeaker repeated safety messages, prompting Luna to ask if he was a robot. to which he responded with an embarrassed smile. As Luna awaited Mr. Lovegood, the Weasley family emerged, marveling at the city's fusion of ancient charm and modern innovation. It was a place that seemed to belong both to the Muggle and wizarding worlds. Harry and the others really should see this, Ginny mused, her eyes taking in the dreamy landscape. Colorful bubbles floated across the sky, carrying families of wizards who expressed their amazement. Ron, standing beside his sister, he remarked, "They'll have to catch the next train." The wizard city had barely opened its gates, yet businesses were already springing to life. Among them, a coffee shop caught their eye, enticing customers with its delicious chicken rolls. Mrs. Weasley, clutching a model of an unusual building, expressed urgency. "We need to quickly find a spot to set the house down." Mr. Weasley, reminiscing about their previous surroundings, agreed. "Oh yes, I did prefer the old environment." Deciding on a course of action, Mr. Weasley suggested they split up, allowing the children to continue their shopping spree while he and Ms. Weasley attended to the task of placing the house. This task involved a special reduction spell from Silver Hand Fashion Building, which only lasted for a limited duration. As they approached the roadside, they noticed their car being transported to the designated location. Meanwhile, wizards from across the globe were disembarking from trains, adding to the city's burgeoning liveliness. Early bird merchants, having set up shop in advance, were visibly thrilled, their smiles wide with anticipation of good business. Among the newcomers was Tang Mi, leading the members of the Silver Wolf Roaring Club with a vibrant energy. High above, on the pinnacle of the tallest magic tower, John sat perched on the edge. A mere step forward would place him at a dizzying height of 1,000 meters. From the tower, black and white owls took flight, their wings thundering with each flap as they dispersed throughout the wizard city. Tom, meanwhile, sought refuge inside, his fear of heights getting the better of him. Chapter 812, Creation in 7 Days. "You said you dared to bite even Voldemort, but you're actually afraid of heights?" John teased as he tugged at Tom's legs. However, Tom's paws clung stubbornly to the pillar, refusing to budge while he moaned in protest. John shook his head in disbelief. For a pet of the Witch King, Tom was unexpectedly fearful. "You won't die if you fall," John tried to reassure him. "At most, you'll break a few bones with your sturdy body." Tom remained unconvinced, steadfastly refusing to move, his expression one of disbelief. John contemplated whether to have Basil drag Tom out or to let him be, but ultimately he decided against both options. Instead, he sat on the edge of the tower, legs dangling, enjoying an unobstructed view of the entire magical world below. This tower, specially designed for him, allowed him to oversee the huge purple magic crystals that tirelessly worked to shape this world. "Wizards are making progress," John noted with a smile. Suddenly, a large cat scaled the outer wall of the magic tower. Upon seeing John, Zuowu climbed over joyfully, pushing John into the tower and affectionately licking him. "Why are you here?" John laughed, stroking Zuowu's large head. It seemed Hagrid had sent Zuowu to him. Reunited with his friend, Tom quickly approached, wagging his tail at Zuowu, who blinked his large round eyes and wagged his tail vigorously in response. All right, John said, patting Zuowu's mane. "We should get ready to head out." Zuowu paused, tilting his head as if pondering what adventures awaited them outside. "Of course, we're going to leave a significant mark on this world," John declared with a smile as he led the way outside. Atop the 1,000-meter-high tower, John drew his wand, preparing to cast the most powerful flying spell known. "The magic crystal ball is flying," he announced, pointing the Elder Wand at the large purple crystal ball at the tower's edge. The massive crystal began to move towards the wizard city, leaving the Weasley family, who were shopping below, agape in wonder. The magic crystal ball floated to the center of the wizarding city, and John stepped into the air as if walking on invisible steps. "People of the Magic Kingdom," his voice boomed throughout the city, reaching every wizard and witch. "The Witch King is here." "Look, the Witch King has appeared," the crowd exclaimed. "Praise the Witch King, who created this miraculous city." Cheers and praises filled the air, turning the atmosphere into a celebratory frenzy. John stood silently before the magic crystal ball, absorbing the devotion of his people. At this moment, He was the undisputed king of magic, receiving blessings from across the world. "Let us present the greatest fireworks for the birth of this country," he declared, summoning the sword of silver Wake into his right hand. The red gem at the sword's end sparkled brilliantly. Raising his hand, John touched the tip of the sword to the huge magic crystal ball. As he rose and then descended, he cast a spell. A trace, finer than a hairline, appeared on the crystal ball, followed by a subtle cracking sound. A dazzling light burst forth, turning the world momentarily dark, spreading from the crystal ball to envelop the entire wizard city. The magic crystal ball, like a chick breaking free from its shell, began to expand, covering the wizard city. In the next moment, hundreds of rays of light burst forth, each beam flying to a specific location and transforming into streets or ancient houses. Wizard gatherings and individuals from all over were drawn to the wizard city, pulled by the summons of the Witch King. The transformation was a spectacle to behold, marking the dawn of a new era for the magical community. Waiting at the station, they watched themselves emerge from the vast wizarding city via fantastic and magical roads. The magical aura breathed life into this expansive land. The original territory of Wizard City had expanded by another third, yet the land belonging to the wizards continued to grow. In this land, unknown when to anyone but the wizards, they were thriving. Upon arrival, the first spectacle newcomers witnessed was the most amazing fireworks display. Their king had sent them gifts with swords, and in response, Weasley's Wizard Wheez's fireworks were the first to light up the sky. Then, they exploded, imprinting the flag of the magical country in the sky with fireworks. This sound marked the beginning of the carnival, a day now designated as National Day. Every year at this time, they would remember the Witch King on the tower and send him their blessings. "The Witch King is here," a wizard murmured in surprise. This statement spread quickly, becoming a viral sensation. Yes, the Witch King was atop the high tower, always watching over his people. This phrase would become a mantra for wizards in the future, expressing emotion and surprise akin to the saying, "Merlin's beard." As the wizards gathered, he stood there, watching the fireworks burst into the sky, admiring the captivating scene. Was his mission over? Far from it. John was just beginning to gather people. He had many tasks ahead. "I think I can schedule it for 10 years, John mused, looking down at the land beneath his feet. Despite his power, he felt as insignificant as an ant. Wizards are still too vulnerable. They need sufficient protection to catch up. 3 structures stood out in the wizarding city. The Magic Tower, the tallest building resembling a sword piercing the ground, the Potions Department, a black square, and the Alchemy Department, a white sphere. Positioned on the east and west sides respectively, with the Magic Tower at their center, these buildings were the city's most eye-catching features. John re-entered the Magic Tower, his heart warmed by the cheers of the nation. Wizards were no longer hiding. They were proud citizens of a magical country, with their own passports, diplomatic and consular representations in every country, existing independently. Any illegal acts against them would be met with legal consequences. As the ruler of this country, the king was their greatest source of confidence. Percy rubbed his eyes and approached the Magic Tower, gazing up at this structure that touched the sky. The door opened for him, and he slowly entered. The interior was dark and empty, with only one path leading to the top. The seemingly endless staircase exhausted even Percy. Finally, he collapsed on the stairs, only to realize he was just 3 steps from the top. At the summit, he found John leaning against a pillar, who chuckled, "I think you should exercise more." "I've been stuck in the office recently," Percy replied, catching his breath. He climbed the last 3 steps and informed John, "The selected officials are already in place. You handle the rest," John said, indifferent to those who chose to stay at the British Ministry of Magic over moving to the Wizarding City. Percy's decision to come here meant he was willing to give up his position as minister. "I lack a minister," John said with a chuckle, suggesting Percy as a candidate. "It would be my honor," Percy replied. Their friendship was built on mutual respect and understanding, not compromise. Looking out at the still expanding land, Percy admitted, "I'm not like you. I can't do all these things alone." "Of course, that's why you need more people," John said, approaching Percy. "I will manage taxation and justice separately." The city requires various departments for its operations, John mused. After a moment of thought, he corrected himself. No, don't think of it as a city. We are more akin to a country. He acknowledged the small population, but was optimistic about growth. As time passes, our numbers will only increase. John walked past Percy, positioning himself at the doorway, a breathtaking 1,000 meters above the ground. As he observed the sky transitioning into twilight, he couldn't help but smile, wand in hand. We have a long journey ahead of us, he remarked thoughtfully. Before wizards can coexist with muggles, it's our duty to ensure they are adequately protected. He continued, emphasizing the need for advancement. We must also invest in magical technology and develop forces and weaponry capable of confronting muggles directly. John sighed, the weight of their mission evident in his voice. Percy, this is a daunting task. With a sense of determination, John slowly raised his wand towards the sky, now devoid of light. Under Percy's attentive gaze, he whispered, "Now." His voice was soft, yet filled with resolve. "Let there be light." Chapter 813, the king declared, "Let there be light." The king's command resonated through the air, "Let there be light." In response, black and white owls, one heading west and the other east, soared across the sky, their flight marking the end of darkness. It was as if a black veil had been lifted from the earth. The city below basked in light, with thousands of lamps igniting simultaneously, their glow merging into long, luminous lines. Wizards, who had been engulfed in darkness, erupted in cheers once more. The illumination transformed the city, making it unnecessary to conceal the night's festivities. Weasley's Wizarding Wheezes reopened its doors, welcoming customers back with open arms. A fire dragon streaked across the sky, its gaze sweeping the land below. In a newly opened tavern, a werewolf and a wizard shared a moment of camaraderie, their arms around each other's shoulders, ready to indulge in the night's revelries. The restaurant scene was bustling, offering wizards a taste of both muggle and magical cuisines, a fusion that quickly garnered rave reviews. The Silverhand wine cellar introduced a lucky draw, promising the winner a box of its exquisite wines. The convenience of magic cards, swiped through machines, began to make the weight of galleons feel obsolete. Yinhand Amusement Park's giant bubble Ferris wheel welcomed guests once again, offering young wizards a breathtaking view of the city from above. The Weasley family had a special visitor, Bill, who had just returned from a vacation with the Magic Association. He brought Ginny a miniature model of the Wizarding City, which she adored. Despite his single status, Bill found reasons to celebrate, joining his family for a meal of roast chicken and fruit pie, perfectly complemented by a delicious gravy. Hannah, though alone, sent a lunchbox filled with love to Hogwarts via Owl. Later, craving something different, she ordered tom yum soup from a Thai wizard's restaurant. The convenience of magical takeout delighted her, and the soup's sour, spicy, and refreshing taste inspired her to learn the recipe for her husband. Wizards gathered in the streets, in no rush to return home. Some tried riding a hippogriff, inserting a galleon into the meter around its neck for a unique flying experience, vastly different from broomstick travel. Malfoy's Quidditch Boutique released a limited edition Firebolt R1 to commemorate the founding of the Magic Kingdom, along with a special edition Snitch and Bat, ensuring the store's success. For those seeking adventure at sea, wizard-controlled ships were available, though navigating the open waters required expertise to avoid getting lost. In such cases, one could only hope for the Fire Dragon search and rescue team to come to their aid. Amidst the celebrations, some hesitated, unsure of their place in the festivities. They were squibs, often scorned by the wizarding community, yet they held on to hope, clutching black cards given by the Witch King himself, promising them a chance at magic. Their desire for magic was profound, driving them not to the magic tower, but to the alchemy department, seeking a transformation. Among them was the gatekeeper John had encountered at Cados Dorez, demonstrating his deep yearning for magic, a sentiment shared by many like Filch, who also sought to harness magic through rapid incantation training. Their journey was not just about gaining magical abilities, but finding acceptance and purpose within a world that had often overlooked them. In a world brimming with magic, he harbored the same aspirations. Regrettably, like Filch, he found himself bereft of magic's favor. Yet, Their situation was distinct. Despite their inability to wield magic personally, tales of Hogwarts administrators utilizing external means to harness magic reached some squibs. Not through innate abilities, but through magical artifacts, they could borrow the essence of magic, a concept previously unthinkable. "I'm going," declared the gatekeeper of the Catos Torres School of Magic, standing amidst the squib self-help soci 80. "The Witch King will not betray us. Just as he saved the wizarding world, he remains the greatest." Initially, the gatekeeper didn't recognize John due to their vast differences. However, upon learning of John's identity, he understood the magnitude of the young man's intentions and chose to trust him, convinced that John had no reason to deceive them. This conviction spurred the other squibs, despite their initial hesitations. Their current plight couldn't possibly worsen. Devoid of magical abilities, they faced rejection from their wizarding families, a source of profound sorrow. For those born into such families, especially pure-blood ones, their lack of magic marked them as a disgrace, unworthy of their family's legacy. Mrs. Fig, once a member of their circle, had since moved on. With trepidation, they approached the highest palace of alchemy, a place even wizards couldn't enter without explicit permission. Tentatively raising their hands, the smooth white curved walls of the palace enveloped them, drawn by the black cards in their possession. An invitation. A group of 10 squibs stepped into the alchemical sanctum. Inside, the pristine white surroundings morphed into the visage of a woman who inquired, "How may I assist you?" Overwhelmed by their inferiority complex, they faltered. It was the gatekeeper who, presenting the card, admitted, "We're unsure of our purpose here." Upon seeing the black card, the woman's face promised, "Please wait a moment. I will connect you to Mr. Taryn." Mr. Taryn? The name was unfamiliar to the squibs. However, the woman's face soon transformed into that of a man. Taryn, the creator of the imitation metal wand showcased at the Future Wizards exhibition. "Excellent, you've arrived," Taryn greeted them, his joy evident despite being in the midst of a meal. "Please, come to my laboratory." As the national alchemist of the wizarding city, Taryn's laboratory was a hub of magical technology. The squibs were led through a facility where they witnessed wonders, such as wizards communicating through rectangular devices, and a simulated ocean housing a colossal warship undergoing repairs by a team of alchemists, unfazed by the muggle technologies around them. Upon reaching Taryn's research room, they were greeted by a starkly different environment. The room was cluttered with purple magic crystals, 7 of which Taryn inserted into a device he referred to as a magic power pistol. "Magic pistol, a weapon powered by magic crystals," Taryn explained. He assembled the weapon and offered it to the gatekeeper, who hesitated before reaching out. Taryn momentarily withdrew the gun, asking, "Sorry, what is your name?" "Padrick," replied the gatekeeper. With a smile, Taryn handed the weapon back and encouraged Padrick to aim at the metal target across the room. Padrick fired the weapon, which, powered by the core of the Fire Dragon neural staff, unleashed a torrent of flames, striking the bullseye and leaving a scorched hole. The squibs watched in awe as Taryn, visibly pleased, clapped Padrick on the back, expressing his relief that the weapon was effective even in the hands of a squib. While the latest weapons may not harness advanced magic, they can still utilize some basic elements, Taryn explained, showcasing the potential within their grasp. He extended his hand with a smile. "Welcome to the magical world, Patrick. You will be members of the team directly under the Witch King, known as the Whisperers. From now on, you are no longer powerless. You will only obey the orders of the Witch King." The squibs could hardly believe they had become part of the Witch King's ranks. What was even more astonishing was that these squibs could now use magic. At that moment, the squibs saw a glimmer of hope. Although the magic was not their own, it was under their control, and that was enough for them. The Witch King, known as the enforcer of the wizarding world, cast his influence over everyone in the magical realm, be they wizards or squibs. His presence was a beacon of power and authority, guiding and shaping the lives of those under his command. The Whisperers, now endowed with the ability to wield magic, found a new sense of purpose and belonging, serving directly under the Witch King's command. This newfound power was a testament to the Witch King's reach and influence, offering a chance at redemption and a place in the magical world for those who had once been deemed powerless. Chapter 814, The King's Decree, A Castle in the Sky. John, in his quest for loyalty and independence, now turns his attention to recruiting squibs, much like he did with werewolves in the past. The Witch King's kindness is so profound that anyone who experiences it finds themselves irresistibly drawn to him. In this newly established world, there is a need for law enforcers to protect this fragile realm from external threats. However, John's creation was far from complete. He opened a passage and ascended to the sky. With his wand in hand, he followed rhythmic rules, guiding the construction of a building in the sky. "The power of our sky is too weak," John observed, waving his wand to conjure Sky Castle. The wizarding world would now boast two sky castles. One was Edgar's old residence, now floating somewhere above Germany, and the other was positioned over the foggy ocean near the wizarding city. Fire dragons roared as they soared through the sky, stones merging to form a colossal castle. This became a resting place for the fire dragons, who would sometimes dwell there and other times descend to the earth below. The massive castle featured a giant fort resembling a dragon's head, within which 5 super-destructive weapons, intercepted by John from the Muggle world and impervious to magic, were stored. Protected by a field generated by multiple obelisks, the castle, dubbed the Sword of Damocles, was guarded by a fire dragon. This fortress, capable of annihilating 5 cities, could become the world's most elusive bomber at John's will. Only a few were aware of its existence, a formidable weapon forged by the Witch King for the wizarding world. "If possible, I hope it never comes to use," John murmured, caressing a black dragon model at the castle's heart. Inside, eerie wails sometimes echoed, but they would gradually cease, silenced by the fear of the Witch King. "You can wait," John stated calmly, addressing the entity deep within the castle. "Wait until this nation falls, and let this sky castle, your prison, crash to the ground. Then, the world will become your playground." He spoke to the Dementors, creatures he had captured, which fed on pleasure and used souls as a trigger. These beings, invisible to Muggles, were confined here by the Witch King, perhaps to be discovered by some adventurous wizard in the future. John cast a final glance into the darkness before exiting the castle. The fire dragon bowed its head to him, and he approached Amohan, the black dragon. "I still prefer your dragon form," Amohan commented, somewhat disheartened. The fireball dragon remained by Amohan's side, who was gradually ascending to the position of Elder Dragon. With the death of Thunder Implementation Spear, the role was left vacant, and Amohan, as a powerful black dragon, possessed terrifying potential. John patted Amohan's scales, whispering, "Protect them, for you are my most trusted dragon." Amohan exhaled warmly, nodding vigorously in agreement. As the king of both dragons and wizards, John faced a perennial dilemma. Wizards required fire dragon materials, while fire dragons needed sustenance. Striving to find a balance, John decreed that fire dragons would gradually shift their status, ensuring wizards had access to materials without harming the dragons. Unauthorized killing of fire dragons would result in punishment, offering them the greatest protection possible. Amohan, not fully grasping the complexities, felt a shift in the fire dragon king's demeanor. "Okay," she said, somewhat sullenly. Leaning close to John, she whispered, not quite quietly, "Many female dragons wish to lay eggs with you." John, taken aback, gently pushed Amohan's head away, clearing his throat awkwardly. Amohan's dragon face radiated undeniable cuteness as she awkwardly suggested, "Let them find another dragon. I also want to lay dragon eggs with you." John was left speechless, questioning, "Don't you already have dragon eggs?" Around Amohan's tail, several mischievous little dragons frolicked, nipping and kicking at him, which infuriated Amohan. "These are not my dragon eggs," he exclaimed, his tail sweeping the little dragons away as he stormed off in anger. John could only shrug, taken aback by the female dragon's sudden temper. The little dragons, viewing John as a paternal figure despite being younger, flocked to him, seeking affection by rubbing their heads against him. To the dragons, this gesture signified John as the progeny of the Dragon King, their gaze shifting in reverence. After parting ways with the dragons, John prepared for his next journey. He drew the Elder Wand, aiming it at the Sky Castle's ground, and cast a spell to protect the realm of dragons from intrusion by non-dragon entities, invoking a curse upon violators. Though the wand emitted no light, a mysterious alteration of the rules began to permeate the mist-enshrouded city in the sky. Having addressed the dragon's survival issue, John returned to the magic tower where Zuowu and Tom lay together in the vacant attic. John had previously rescued the large dog Zuowu. Approaching Zuowu, John tenderly stroked its mane, whispering, "I give you freedom. There are no chains in this world that can bind you, no cages that can contain you, and no barriers that can obstruct you." John's voice carried a potent force that infused Zuowu, triggering a transformation. Zuowu's mane briefly shimmered golden, reminiscent of flames, before reverting to its original color. With a wag of its tail and a shake of its body, Tom was dislodged from beneath Zuowu, who then rolled over to face John with a smile. "You shouldn't be confined to this tower like me," John remarked, his hand pausing mid-stroke. "You are the free Zuowu, free to roam and explore the world." Zuowu's eyes, initially filled with confusion, brightened with joy upon seeing John. However, a hint of sadness soon clouded its gaze, and mist gathered in its large round eyes as it nuzzled John's palm and wrapped its peony-like tail around him in a farewell embrace. Zuowu, realizing it did not belong in the tower, prepared to leave. "Go to freedom. In the magical world, you can run and play freely," John encouraged, touching Zuowu's fangs one last time, imbuing them with a trace of the Witch King's magic. "Go, my friend. I haven't named you, but if you wish, I will call you Red Peony." Zuowu, fond of the name, brushed its tail across John's cheek, looking back 3 times with each step, reluctant to leave but unable to resist the call to freedom. Stepping out of the tower, Zuowu entered the unobstructed passage, a merciful privilege granted by the Witch King. John watched Zuowu depart, with Tom sitting quietly at his feet. Together, they faced the emptiness and loneliness of the high tower, a solitary castle in the sky. Chapter 815, The King Declared, There Must Be a Fortress in the Water. A submarine was descending slowly into the depths, its presence marked only by the sound waves bouncing back to the radar. Inside, a British naval lieutenant colonel was leisurely preparing himself a cup of coffee. He dropped 3 sugar cubes into his cup, stirring with evident satisfaction. Contrary to what one might think, life in a submarine, despite the confined space, could be quite enjoyable. With the current global tensions at a low, their duties had become more relaxed. Their days were mostly spent monitoring instruments and maintaining equipment, except for the occasional surfacing for supplies. "Here you go," he said, offering the coffee to a soldier. "Thank you, sir," the soldier replied, accepting the cup with gratitude. The lieutenant colonel's penchant for coffee had earned him the nickname Lieutenant Colonel Coffee, a moniker that, rather than bothering him, he had grown fond of. "It's another peaceful day. Let us praise this peace," he declared, grinding more coffee beans for another cup. The rich aroma filled the air, and he raised his cup in a toast, drawing friendly laughter from his crew. Not long ago, they had been on high alert for war beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Thankfully, the alert was lifted, and peace was restored. Their submarine, armed with weapons of mass destruction, represented a crucial yet isolated part of the UK's defense. So isolated, in fact, that changes in the presidency might go unnoticed by them. Settling into his personal space, the lieutenant colonel turned on the TV to catch up on his favorite programs. This was his routine. "Sir, I think you need to see this," a soldier approached him hesitantly. "Let's see if it's a shark or something," the lieutenant colonel joked, knowing that at 500 meters below the surface, encountering marine life was rare, thanks to their sonar systems. At the console, Lieutenant Colonel Coffee observed the radar screen. A red dot flickered intermittently, moving directly towards them. "It doesn't look like a shark," the soldier remarked, uncertainty in his voice. "That's a submarine," Lieutenant Colonel Coffee exclaimed, his leisurely demeanor vanishing as he ordered, "Everyone, prepare for battle." Civilian submarines couldn't dive to these depths, indicating this was a military vessel. Moreover, no other domestic submarines were scheduled in this area, suggesting an unidentified foreign military submarine was approaching. Such encounters were critical crises. Lieutenant Colonel Coffee attempted to contact the mysterious submarine, but before he could, the soldier exclaimed, "It's gone!" What? Confused, the lieutenant colonel rushed to the screen, only to find the red dot had vanished. The object that had been so close was now nowhere to be seen. "What's going on?" he murmured, feeling the sudden need for another cup of coffee to steady his nerves. "That thing is like a ghost?" the soldier suggested hesitantly, the word hanging in the air like a specter. The idea of a ghost submarine, invisible and undetectable, was absurd, yet no other explanation fit. This incident would become a legend within the Navy, a tale of a submarine codenamed Ghost. Speculation ran rampant about which nation had developed such advanced stealth technology. Meanwhile, in the dark confines of the mysterious submarine, a soul lamp with a faint flame provided illumination. John looked around at the sophisticated instruments, feeling somewhat out of his depth. "It's still a bit tricky to control," he admitted, relying on the soul lamp for power. This submarine, a gift laden with advanced technology, was his to command. In the friendly United States, John had taken a submarine, which he had forcefully extracted and placed on an island and renamed it Trident. He utilized magical technology to breathe new life into the submarine, declaring it a symbol of a wizard's power beneath the waves. John envisioned the Trident as a bearer of the sea's wrath, a floating castle in the sky, and a fortress beneath the ocean. As he pressed his hands against the submarine's hull, his eyes transformed, adopting vertical pupils, and he invoked a spell to imbue the vessel with a unique essence. A magic circle enveloped the submarine, signifying the beginning of its transformation. John's intention was not only to alter the submarine, but also to select guardians for it. Within the glow of a soul lamp, the visage of a marine, marked by confusion, materialized. With a commanding gesture, John beckoned the soul back, restoring consciousness to the crew. They awoke to a transformed reality. The control console had morphed into blue crystal, and the submarine's interior had expanded beyond its physical confines. As the submarine descended to the ocean floor, metals reached out from its structure, attracting materials from the seabed to form a colossal underwater fortress. This fortress was designed to relocate every 7 days, rendering it untraceable. After completing the transformation, John addressed the bewildered Navy personnel, acknowledging their adjustment to their new spectral existence. With a casual flick of his wand, he reassured them of their eventual acclimatization. The Marines, still grappling with their last memories before the transformation, questioned John's identity. He introduced himself as their wizard master and informed them that the submarine would serve as their new operational base. One Marine, upon discovering a mark of allegiance to the Witch King on his chest, voiced his fear of enslavement. The notion of being kidnapped by wizards was unfathomable to them as members of the American Navy. John sought to alleviate their concerns by presenting their situation as an opportunity for survival, revealing that their country had forsaken them. He turned on the television, tuning it to American channels, only to show that there was no mention of their sacrifice in the battle against the Dragon of Destruction. This revelation left the soldiers in disbelief and despair, feeling abandoned by their country. Amidst their turmoil, John offered a glimmer of hope by allowing them to contact their families, a privilege that brought mixed emotions. The Major General, seizing the opportunity, called his wife, who had been left in the dark about his fate. The conversation was a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made and the secrets kept from loved ones. John cautioned them about the potential consequences of their government discovering these communications, hinting at the complexities of their new existence under his command. This marked the beginning of their journey as guardians of the Trident, navigating the murky waters of loyalty, duty, and survival in an unfathomable new world. Knew that your family members were talking to dead people. Surprisingly, the individual who granted him the ability to hear his family's voices was his former adversary. The nation he served could endanger his family. James glanced at his soldiers, fully grasping the magnitude of the temptation before them. Thus, James saluted John militarily. "We are willing to serve you." "This place has undergone renovations," John remarked as he picked up an object and tossed it to James, who caught it instinctively. John smiled. "You're free to interact with the objects here. However, due to the unique circumstances, some ghosts who were buried at sea will find their way here." He continued, You can welcome them and provide them with a home. John then opened the passage and was about to exit when he paused, turning to address the lined-up soldiers. I'm sorry, but I'll have to kill you. His voice was solemn. That's what I had to do, James responded gravely. Everyone is their own master. It's generous of you to leave us a place where we can reminisce about our loved ones. This act of mercy was an irresistible force, compelling the Marines to look away. John's decision to allow them the ability to contact their families, rather than enslaving them and using his magic to transform them into ghosts serving the wizards, was an act of compassion. He chose to preserve their consciousness, transforming them into a living fortress. This fortress served as an undersea trident for the magical realm, poised to unleash its fury when necessary. John nodded, stepped into the passage, and vanished. Thus, the legend of the ghost under the sea would live on. Chapter 816. The king said, "You must have eyes like the stars." On the fourth day since the opening of the Wizarding City and the official establishment of the Magic Kingdom, the night sky was exceptionally bright, adorned with countless stars. Amidst this celestial display, John, seated on the platform of the highest tower, crafted two formidable objects for the wizarding world, accompanied by two owls. Basil, one of the owls, occasionally turned to give Tom, a dog huddled behind him, a look of disdain. Feeling aggrieved, Tom slowly mustered the courage to approach John, walking with its tail between its legs as if it were a warrior facing its final battle. Reaching John's side, Tom nuzzled his head against John's arm, seeking comfort. John, understanding the gesture, pulled Tom into his arms, offering a sense of security as they overlooked the kingdom, its thousands of lights twinkling below. "This is our country," John said, his presence on the tower instilling an infinite sense of security in Tom. The dog, initially fearful, became captivated by the lights below, seeing the happiness of the wizards despite its limited color vision. As they gazed at the stars, Tom's attention was drawn to one particular light, indistinguishable from the stars, yet not one of them. It was a satellite, a product of Muggle technology designed for global surveillance. This sight reminded John of the need for vigilance and the importance of having eyes that could see the world as clearly as the stars. Meanwhile, Basil took flight, soaring across the sky, embodying the freedom and majesty of the wizarding world. Harry, Hermione, and Ron experienced the magic of the Wizarding City firsthand upon their arrival. With no need for a birdcage, Hedwig, Harry's owl, enjoyed newfound freedom. However, a visit to the owl snack shop led to an unexpected confrontation between Hedwig and Basil, another snowy owl. The altercation resulted in Hedwig seeking refuge inside the shop, with Basil blocking the entrance, eagerly awaiting the outcome. Hermione, quick to act, pacified Basil with dried fish, allowing Hedwig to escape. The incident left the shop owner bewildered, unsure whether the presence of the Witch King's owl was a blessing or a curse. As the group departed, onlookers whispered, realizing the significance of the owl's identity. This chapter not only highlights the vibrant life within the Wizarding City, but also underscores the themes of protection, loyalty, and the ever-present influence of the magical and Muggle worlds. Through the interactions of John, Tom, and the owls, we see the depth of bonds formed in this magical kingdom, a place where every creature, big or small, finds a sense of belonging and purpose. Flying towards the Magic Tower, the crowd's enthusiasm for the Witch King's owl snacks was palpable. "The Witch King, above all, even likes to eat the Witch King's owl snacks," one exclaimed. "Praise the Witch King. My owl will definitely love these," another chimed in. Requests to try the snacks flooded in, lighting up everyone's eyes. In an unexpected turn of events, the shop owner found himself overwhelmed by the crowd, only to remember he was, in fact, the proprietor of this establishment. As magic cards were swiped in rapid succession, the grateful shop owner clasped his hands together, murmuring, "Praise the Witch King for this beautiful day." His product, originally just owlfish snacks, had now been rebranded as a delicacy even the Witch King's owls enjoyed, to great effect. Basil, having returned victoriously, approached John just as Riddle, opening his wings, offered a feather. Tom, seeking attention, was gently rebuffed by John. "Sorry, I don't need you," leaving Tom to retreat inside, dejected. With the black and white feather in hand, John summoned the Elder Wand, and as the feather neared the wand, wings unfurled from his back. "Watch the magic tower," he instructed the owls before taking flight. As John ascended, the wizarding city below him shrank, enveloped by an invisible film. The cold of the high-altitude frosted his cheeks, quickly absorbed by his skin. His dragon lungs allowed him to store enough air for this journey, eliminating the need to breathe. Not yet in space, John raised his wand, and the feather turned to ashes. "I need an eye so I can see everything," he declared, and with a wave of his wand, the ashes and a magical object with purple and blue eyes combined, eventually disintegrating in the universe. An eye appeared in the starry sky for a moment, before vanishing. John, his body rapidly descending, constructed a magical thinking palace in his mind, connecting golden runes. He passed through the wizarding city's barrier without slowing. The two owls on the magic tower watched his descent. Basil, ready to take flight, was restrained by Riddle. As John neared the magic tower, he opened his eyes, enveloped in white light, his descent halted by an unseen force. He passed through the magic tower and emerged from the ground, his body returning to its original form. A palace of thought, capable of enveloping the entire city and even the world, was now complete in his mind. The eye in the starry sky granted him oversight of this domain, though it required him to relinquish consciousness, risking the loss of time perception, a dangerous magic indeed. However, John had a solution. "Be my eyes and walk in this country," he instructed the owls, who took off from the magic tower. Closing his eyes, John saw through Basil and Riddle, observing the wizarding city from the comfort of his home. The owls flew towards the border, embodying John's will and vision. Residents of the wizarding city looked up as owls soared across the sky. Among them, someone recognized the distinctive owl of the Witch King. Upon seeing Basil, Harry quickly covered Hedwig with a cloth, much to Hedwig's displeasure. The Witch King's creations, revered by all, promised to bring peace to the magical world with their mere presence. From castles floating in the sky to fortresses submerged in water and eyes watching from the starry heavens, the king's work was far from over. As the guardian of this world, he was tasked with shielding this fragile realm from any harm. The owls made their return journey through the wizarding city, eventually landing on either side of John. Upon reopening his eyes, John cast a curious glance at Basil, noting the owl's surprisingly good reputation. He found it amusing how many owl snack shops went out of their way to lure Basil with treats. Riddle, on the other hand, seemed to blend into the darkness of the night, unnoticed as it flew across the sky, a fact that John found somewhat disheartening. However, Riddle seemed indifferent to this lack of attention, maintaining its aloof demeanor on John's right side. John then turned his attention to the solitary seat on the empty top floor, a position many coveted but could never attain. Approaching the front, he chose not to draw back the curtain. Instead, he spoke to himself. It will take a while. He knew that the balance of power required constant vigilance. With the sword of the sky and the trident of the sea in play, the Earth's guardians could not afford any lapses in their duty. Chapter 817, The Return of the Divine Guard. The king decreed that there must always be guards on the ground. John had created these guards, and now it was time to recall a group that had been stationed outside. On the 5th day, the city of wizards awoke to a bustling morning. John left the magic tower, crossing the Albatross Waterway Arch Bridge. The passing trains stirred up splashes, creating a curtain of water beneath him. Standing on the bridge, John observed the pedestrians below, unnoticed by them. Despite being the Witch King of the entire magical kingdom, he blended seamlessly into the background. "I think some people enjoy the excitement," John mused, reflecting on the bustling city life. The Magic Kingdom was home to 4 gates, each leading to different realms. John closed his eyes and pushed open the door to the Temple of Thought, entering a realm far beyond his imagination. A vast blue planet floated in a pure white space. Reaching out, John touched a point on the planet, and it quickly expanded, transporting him into a cave. Inside, small holes dotted the walls, and from one, a little golden figure peeked out. The figure, initially confused, emerged fully and began to circle the illusory form of John. It seemed to sense something in John's presence. Suddenly, the figure transformed into a ferocious divine guard, its arms morphing into sharp bayonets. "Hermo," John called out to the little golden figure. Hermo, now in the form of a divine guard, paused, a look of confusion replacing his ferocity. As John's form became more tangible, Hermo's surprise turned to joy upon recognizing his creator. Speaking in the language of the stars, Hermo expressed his longing for John during their separation. John smiled, listening intently, and promised, "I'll take you back, Helmer." Overjoyed, Hermo transformed back into his smaller form and attempted to leap towards John, but missed. Puzzled, Hermo looked up at John, who reassured him, "Wait a while." The scene shifted to a dilapidated house where Hector resided. Like Hermo, Hector was surprised by John's appearance and leaped towards him. John then proceeded to locate other Protoss guardians he had released to protect the magical world. Most were stationed near wizard gatherings, with one notable guardian in the Forbidden Forest, a future surprise for Hogwarts students. John didn't intend to recall all the guardians, acknowledging that some needed to remain outside. After completing his task, John opened his eyes and found himself instantly back in the Wizarding City. "The Divine Guard is back," John announced, raising his wand. He sent out a signal that only the Divine Guard could detect. Upon receiving the return signal, the Guardians transformed into golden figures, ascending towards the sky like shooting stars. A little girl on a passenger plane spotted Hermo flying upwards and waved, receiving a wave back from the golden figure. Accelerating, Hermo and the others joined together, forming larger, faster meteors that descended towards the city of wizards. The sight of the golden meteors captivated the wizards below, who stopped to watch the spectacle. As the meteors approached the magical barrier, friction caused them to ignite, drawing gasps from the onlookers. The barrier dented under the pressure, forming a transparent tube through which the meteors struggled before finally breaking through. As they landed, the Guardians separated, shouting in the incomprehensible language of the stars, their arrival marking the return of the Divine Guard to the City of Wizards. Falling from a great height, they landed heavily on the street, yet it felt as if they had fallen onto soft cotton, coming to a stop half a meter above the ground. The surrounding wizards gazed at this group of golden beings. Helmer raised his hand in greeting. At that moment, the stars ascended once more. Helmer turned to Hector, inquiring if he was responsible for this feat. Hector shook his head, denying any involvement. The bodies of the Protoss began to glow, gradually intensifying until they vanished, only to reappear in front of John. Upon seeing their creator, they momentarily forgot the recent events and rushed towards him. John greeted them with a smile. "You all seem to have grown a lot." He beckoned Hector to jump into his hand and asked, "Have you seen this place?" Hector nodded eagerly, and John, with a smile, announced, "From now on, you will be the guardians of this place." The 10 little star spirits pledged their commitment with a pat on their chests. "You alone are not sufficient. I need more," John stated as he set them down and waved his wand, chanting, "Iron Guard protection." Hundreds of magic crystals emerged from his small bag, plunging into the sea and summoning hundreds of elemental guards from the waters. With another wave of his wand, more magic crystals were released, each transforming into elemental guards upon landing. These guards possessed a basic consciousness, capable of obeying orders, thanks to a simple program John had embedded into them using the magic crystals. With a mere gesture, John summoned a vast number of elemental guards to serve under the Divine Guards. As long as they remained within the Wizard City, these elemental guards were immortal, drawing continuous magical power from the land beneath them to fuel the core magic crystal. These guards, created by John's power, normally remained hidden within the Wizarding City, except for Helmer and Hector, who guarded the magic tower, along with other divine guards stationed at crucial locations such as the alchemy and potion departments, serving as the magical world's protectors. John formalized their organization, indicating that their deployment would signify war within the Magic Kingdom. John also recognized the need for law enforcement guards, distinct from the Divine Guards, to be comprised of wizards themselves. He proceeded to establish his ministry, with Percy remaining to assist in appointing officers and delegating authority. For the wizarding world, everyone, Percy declared, adopting a leadership stance. As the head of all ministers of magic, Percy's approval was necessary for any reenactment of laws by the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. he decided to separate the striker role from the auror, a move aimed at dividing the powers within the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. Despite some objections, Percy's calm assertion that this is what the Witch King intended silenced any dissent. The Witch King, being the foundation of their world, was beyond question, his wisdom unparalleled. Henceforth, aurors would function similarly to Muggle police officers, tasked with investigating crimes, while strikers would join the Ministry of Defense, focusing on the Magic Kingdom's security. The auror training program was expanded, requiring graduates from magic schools to undergo training to become aurors. Strikers, on the other hand, had the option to join directly, but were obligated to serve for 2 years, signifying a commitment that, once made, could not be easily revoked. Percy methodically distributed the changes until the sky began to darken. Checking the time, he returned to the office. "I think you should proceed with your wedding to Penelope first," John's voice echoed as Percy loosened his tie, smiling. "She's taking it more seriously than I am now. Now that Penelope has become the foreign minister, she needs to train those diplomats around the world," Percy noted. "Oh?" John raised an eyebrow. "And what about your wedding?" "December seems like a good time," Percy mused, a hint of agony in his voice. "Fred and George are pushing for April Fool's Day." "I can almost hear their scheming," John chuckled. "That's precisely why I've chosen December," Percy replied, understanding his brother's penchant for mischief all too well. He shrugged and added, "It seems a bit unfair to the aurors, turning a striker into a guard." "There's nothing unfair about it," John countered, shaking his head. "Aurors are tasked with handling magical crimes worldwide. We can't have strikers mingling with them without proper oversight. The magical world requires its own law enforcement and military forces. This is something we've all come to understand, especially after the tragic war on Magic Crystal Island," Percy said, his voice trailing off at the memory. John shifted the topic. "We need to increase our population, and I'm encouraging wizards to have more children." Percy's face turned a shade of red, caught off guard by the comment. The Weasley family's propensity for large families was well known. "If all wizards were like the Weasleys, we might rival the population growth of some Eastern countries in 100 years, he joked, albeit with a touch of embarrassment. Chapter 818. The King Said There Must Be Joyful Laughter. Cedric Diggory had been facing a challenging time recently. The magical world was experiencing a significant migration, and among the newcomers were Chuzhang's family and her relatives. Their proximity to the Diggory residence was becoming a source of discomfort, especially since a group of these relatives, who might or might not be Chuzhang's cousins, often loitered near Cedric's home under the guise of coincidental encounters. After managing to escape with Chuzhang one day, Cedric, still shaken, suggested, "How about we buy a house and move out?" Chuzhang, equally distressed, replied, "Houses in the Wizarding City are very expensive. My cousin opened a shop here, and I've learned just how costly housing can be." Cedric, ever the optimist, proposed, "Maybe we can save a bit of money. I'm thinking of writing a book about my adventures, similar to Mr. Newt Scamander. It could even become a textbook for future wizards." Holding Chuzhang's hand tenderly, they shared a hopeful smile. Their moment was interrupted by John's voice. "When are you two getting married?" They turned to see John, enjoying a cup of coffee with a dog across from him, greeting them warmly. "I hope the Wizarding City will become more lively," he added. Cedric, surprised and delighted, asked, "John, what brings you here?" "I decided to take a break before things get busy," John replied with a chuckle. "So, how about planning the wedding?" "We're not quite ready yet," Chuzhang admitted, her cheeks flushing. "We haven't even found a place to get married." John, slapping his forehead in a mock realization of oversight, exclaimed, "That's my fault. I moved here, and you're still getting settled. But don't worry, I can find you the most beautiful place. If you don't mind, I can arrange it today." Cedric, taken aback, hesitated. "Today?" "I promise." Chuzhang's eyes sparkled with excitement. Cedric, seeing her enthusiasm, was swayed despite his reservations. "I still have my ring at home," he mentioned. "I've already brought it for you," John revealed, pulling out the ring, which made Cedric suspect that John had been planning this for a while. Chuzhang, thrilled, wanted to share the news with her family immediately. Cedric, unable to stop her in time, turned to John with a sense of unease. "John, are you sure you're okay?" he asked, noticing a change in John's demeanor from thoughtful to unusually cheerful. "Of course," John assured, waving off the concern. "Let's get ready to go." As Cedric changed into a handsome suit, he couldn't shake off his concern for John. "John, are you really okay?" he asked again, his worry evident. John, understanding his friend's concern, reassured him, "I'm very happy." Suppressing his doubts for the moment, Cedric followed John outside, where the city was abuzz with the news of their wedding. A huge screen displayed a banner reading, "Congratulations to Mr. Cedric Diggory and Cho Chang on their wedding today." Cedric was astounded by the scale of the celebration. Flying cars converged towards the Diggory residence. Upon Chu Zhang's arrival at home, she found Mrs. Malkin waiting with a selection of wedding dresses. The sudden wedding had the Zhang family scrambling to prepare, but the news that the Witch King would officiate the ceremony filled them with pride. Mr. Diggory was overjoyed. A carriage drawn by a white Pegasus arrived, and Chu Zhang, accompanied by her father, stepped into it. A rainbow formed under the Pegasus's hooves, creating a path across the city to the west gate, where the setting sun awaited their arrival. Rainbows adorned the sky. Flowers and candies were scattered across the carriage, creating a scene of pure enchantment in Wizard City. Laughter echoed through the streets, where children chased after rainbows and colorful bubbles floated overhead, each containing singing fairies that spread cheerful melodies throughout the city. From the carriage, one could behold a panoramic view of the bustling wizarding city. Chu Zhang glimpsed a Zhou darting past, then noticed Chu Dai leading a group of teachers on a tour of the Silver Wolf Magic School. The sight of the dreamy carriage filled the young witches with longing. Then, a little fire dragon appeared, flapping its wings vigorously in an attempt to keep pace with the Pegasus. This dreamlike tableau became the aspiration of all witches. However, every journey, no matter how magical, finds its conclusion. The Pegasus-drawn carriage descended upon a coast bathed in the glow of the setting sun. As the rainbow in the sky gently faded, a long red carpet unfurled from the carriage, stretching towards the sunset-kissed beach. The sand felt soft underfoot, and mermaids perched on the rocks, offering blessings to the newlyweds, while sirens sang in harmony. A wizard band provided the musical backdrop as the assembled guests awaited the bride's arrival, the sept greeting her with applause and blessings. Tears welled up in Chu Zhang's eyes. This was, without a doubt, the most surreal and beautiful experience she had ever encountered. At the end of the red carpet stood Cedric, his face alight with a gentle smile, surrounded by his family, eagerly awaiting Chu Zhang's approach. John, too, was dressed in a splendid wizard robe, fidgeting with a ring, his gaze fixed on the vibrant wedding scene. A joyful atmosphere enveloped the wizarding city. "John, despite the suddenness, this is a wonderful surprise," Cedric whispered to John, a smile playing on his lips. John returned the smile, his eyes calm. "I just wanted to help you have the wedding of your dreams," he replied. Cedric paused, glanced at John, and then quickly looked away. The wedding had captured the attention of nearly everyone in the city. John, officiating the ceremony, expressed his happiness at witnessing his friend's union. As we journeyed through Hogwarts, I watched Cedric's pursuit of Chu Zhang evolve from their first meeting to mutual affection, through separations and reunions after graduation, John recounted. Together, they've faced trials, dangers, and even the most formidable enemies. Yet, nothing could deter their love for each other. John's words drew the couple closer, their shared experiences a testament to their enduring love. Cedric took Chu Zhang's hand, gazing at her with adoration. Chu Zhang smiled softly back at him. They had indeed been through so much together. John turned to Chu Zhang, his voice solemn. "Do you take this man to be your husband, to live together in the covenant of marriage? Will you love him, comfort him, honor and keep him, in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, be faithful to him as long as you both shall live?" "I do," Chu Zhang replied, her voice steady. Cedric's response was just as unwavering when John posed the same question to him. "I do." Cedric then took out a ring, kissed it, and gently slid it onto Chu Zhang's finger. "I've enchanted it with the magic of love," he said, his lips curving into a smile. "And so have I," Chu Zhang responded, placing a ring on Cedric's finger. John then proclaimed, "By the authority of the Witch King, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Fireworks illuminated the wizarding city as the setting sun cast a warm glow over the newlyweds, now lost in an intimate embrace. John watched them, a smile on his face, while Percy, among the audience, pondered silently, "Is this to increase the wizard population?" He sensed something unusual about John that day, as if he were bidding farewell. Chapter 8 and 19, the king declared, "There must be free wizards." The wedding was a lively affair, filled with laughter and joy. It was a day of happiness, where young wizards and witches grew closer, their bonds strengthened by the festivities. Percy, amidst the celebration, found himself missing Penello, who was away. He was delighted to see the wizards who had eagerly anticipated the wedding, thinking how wonderful it would be if those with passionate relationships could contribute to the next generation. This marked the 7th day since the opening of Wizard City. Percy had been closely monitoring the wizarding business landscape, observing the gathering of wizards from around the world. The level of enthusiasm mirrored that of the Muggles, sparked by the collision and friction of various wizarding cultures, which brought about significant benefits. The wizarding population, though seemingly large, was actually quite small when compared to the global scale. With only a few tens of thousands of individuals spread across nearly 200 countries, their numbers were dwarfed by the average urban population in major Muggle nations. Excluding the elderly and students still in education, the young and middle-aged wizarding population was alarmingly low. Understanding that population is the cornerstone of a nation and that genius emerges from probability, Percy and John began to strategize on a birth policy. They recognized that a substantial base was necessary for the emergence of geniuses, aiming for a wizarding population of at least 1 million to signify global improvement. John proposed a plan to encourage the growth of the wizarding population using Muggle resources. By investing in potential talents and trading wizarding resources, they hoped to acquire more assets in the Muggle world and offer incentives to wizarding families. Recognizing that not everyone could afford the expenses of raising children, they aimed to alleviate the financial burden. The conversation then shifted to the topic of wizards who had no plans for children, such as the notoriously single Hogwarts potions professor, Severus Snape. It was a curious fact that few potions professors at Hogwarts ever married, a trend that raised concerns about the future of older wizards. John, feeling the weight of this issue, lamented the situation, only to be met with Percy's questioning gaze. "Do you think you are qualified to speak against him?" Percy asked, referring to Snape. John, puzzled, responded, "I'm only 19 years old. How can I get married?" This comment made Neville, who had married at 19, feel indirectly criticized. Despite the digression, Percy and John continued their discussion on increasing the wizarding population. They envisioned a vast and sparsely populated land, ripe for expansion. John, unlike Muggles, had the ability to create land by pulling it from the seabed and using a massive magic crystal ball to sustain it. This process sometimes unearthed rare mineral resources, further fueling the magical kingdom's development. Water sources were not a concern, thanks to a water summoning spell that would be engraved on the magic crystal ball, ensuring a simultaneous supply of water as the land expanded. John's vision of using magic crystals as the foundation for developing magical power technology was proving to be a successful strategy, with the alchemy department now also capable of producing magic crystals. The wizarding reproductive policy soon became part of the newly promulgated policies, marking a significant step towards the growth and development of the magical community. Rita approached the Witch King with a thick plan book in hand, eager to revolutionize Prophet TV. The comprehensive stack was inspired by numerous Muggle programs, aiming to introduce a wave of entertainment to the wizarding world without infringing on copyright laws. Under Rita's hopeful gaze, John perused the detailed plan book. It was clear that Rita had meticulously crafted a 7-day plan encompassing a wide range of popular topics, including a proposal for a remake of the Conjuring movie. One notable idea was the octopus game, which involved placing 100 participants in a game room where they would compete in various challenges for rewards. Failure would result in being transformed into animals, with the process of elimination continuing until only one victor claimed the substantial prize. Another concept was car fury, a speed racing competition for wizards who had committed crimes. Stripped of their wands, they would rely on different props to outmaneuver each other. As John reviewed each proposal, his perception of Rita shifted. He had not previously recognized her potential for creating such darkly inventive content. "Dear Witch King, our lives lack excitement, and we crave more thrilling activities," Rita implored, seeking his approval. John coughed twice before responding. "Why not focus on excelling in your current role? As a news channel, you already hold a prominent position. It's best to concentrate on delivering quality news rather than pursuing these unconventional variety shows." Disheartened by the lack of support for her projects, Rita left. Meanwhile, the issue of international relations loomed. The existence of the Magic Kingdom was now known to world leaders, complicating the situation for wizards living abroad. The Magic Kingdom's policy of automatically granting citizenship to wizards posed challenges for other nations, as it required passports and identity verification, making international travel for wizards problematic. Despite the ability of wizards to blend in as muggles, John, as their king, sought a dignified solution. He envisioned a world where wizards could freely travel across borders with passports issued by their magical kingdom, a gift from their monarch. Mycroft was interrupted during his break by the unexpected appearance of John, the Witch King himself, presenting a green book with the seal of the Magic Kingdom. "It's a passport," John explained, expressing his desire for his citizens to travel the world without hindrance. Mycroft was skeptical, noting that even the United States did not offer a universal passport. "I can assist within my limits, but what you're asking is unfeasible," he retorted. Passports and visas were subject to individual and national regulations, making the idea of visa-free global access for wizards seem overly ambitious. John countered, highlighting the unique nature of wizards and the potential for a globally unified magical community. This prompted Mycroft to reconsider, especially considering the implications for wizards born into Muggle families in the UK. John proposed concessions, including lowering the price of magical energy and ensuring that passport-holding wizards would be held accountable for their actions. Mycroft faced a dilemma, pondering the consequences of rejecting the proposal. "Will the Dragon of the World come to London?" "No, we are not war-mad," John's answer required Mycroft to ponder deeply. The possibility of a universal passport, visa-free for all countries, was brought up. "I can assure you of that, and in exchange, I need something from you," Mycroft eventually agreed, recognizing the potential benefits that magical energy could offer, possibly even replacing nuclear energy. With a meaningful smile, John added, "As I mentioned, I can ensure your position remains secure." Suddenly, a box appeared on the table. John pushed it towards Mycroft, offering it to him. "Magic energy, as you understand, cannot be discovered by ordinary families at this time. In return, this item is yours to research." Inside was a prototype of Terran's magical pistol. "What is this?" Mycroft inquired. "A weapon," John explained. "A wizard's power isn't limited to just waving a wand." With this exchange, the two reached an agreement. Mycroft would assist in obtaining the universal passport. However, there was a condition. The birthplace of wizards would automatically grant visa-free access to corresponding countries. Before the real universal passport could be issued, it needed certification from both the Magic Kingdom and the United Nations. This arrangement had a significant advantage. If a wizard caused any issues, the responsibility could be shared among the United Nations, ensuring a collective assessment. It must be acknowledged that Mycroft, who suggested this strategy, demonstrated considerable foresight. John could see that Mycroft's perception of wizards was evolving. As the first countries to establish friendly relations, they shared a unique bond. Chapter 820, The Throne of the Eternal Witch King. The workload at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs had significantly increased, yet Penelo, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, found no reason to complain. In fact, she relished the added responsibilities, aware that her status rose with her achievements. Even Percy couldn't help but feel a hint of envy. Meanwhile, the alchemy department was burning the midnight oil, crafting new machines to facilitate the issuance of magic passports. These would be granted by the Ministry of Magic's local branches to wizards who demonstrated their magical prowess. "You've managed all this on your own," Percy remarked with a sigh as they walked through the streets of the wizarding city towards the magic tower. "Being by your side, I often feel superfluous." "I'm sorry you feel that way, but there's comfort in being unnecessary, you'll see," John replied with a chuckle. As they stood beneath the towering structure of the magic tower, Percy sighed once more. "This tower always makes me feel disconnected from the world." "Perhaps you could be the one to change that," John suggested as Percy pushed open the door. "A bit of decoration might make it a more welcoming place, don't you think?" Inside, Percy turned to find John framed in the doorway, his shadow stretching long across the floor. "You never used to share so much with me," John observed, shaking his head with a laugh. "Maybe it's because I've started to feel you drifting away from us," Percy admitted, his gaze fixed on John. "There was a time I could stand by your side, but at some point I fell behind. First by one step, then two, then three." Percy's eyes lingered on the shadow that lay between them, like a chasm. "But at Cedric's wedding yesterday, it felt like you were with us again. That made me very happy." "I was happy too," John reflected on the joy of the previous day. It was indeed a happy occasion. Percy, with a hopeful look, stepped closer. "John, will those days ever return? Will you be there for my wedding?" John, his gaze drifting towards the stairs leading up the tower, nodded. "I'll be there, Percy." "Really?" Percy paused, a mix of emotions crossing his face. "Of course," John assured him with a smile. "I've never missed an appointment yet." "I'll hold you to that," Percy said, his expression complex. "Remember, you don't have to shoulder everything alone. You have us." "Thank you, Percy," John replied, then began ascending the stairs. "You're a true friend." Percy watched as John's figure receded, becoming a blur before vanishing entirely. He lingered at the base of the tower, the silence and solitude weighing heavily on him before he finally turned to leave. "We're always here for you, John," he whispered, unsure if John could hear him. At the top of the tower, the throne awaited, its creation now complete. Flanked by black and white owls, the throne stood in the empty attic, a symbol of power and eternity. John approached, his thoughts on the need for a new chair, one that would crown him the Witch King. He reached out, pulling back the curtain to reveal a throne crafted from countless wands and swords, its golden hue ablaze with eternal flames. This throne, forged with the magic stone of creation, symbolized the endless cycle of time and magic. Gold and red represented eternity and creation, blue and silver, the soul and immortality. This was the throne of eternal flame, a seat that transcended time itself. It was as inescapable as time, named eternity, embodying solitude. The immortal who sat upon it would protect his people forever. John extended his hand towards the throne, ready to embrace his destiny. The call of the Witch King beckoned him. The magic tower served as a colossal amplifier, with the eyes of the stars forging a temple of thought that enveloped the world. Seated upon the throne, one could remain forever awake and rational, wielding the all-encompassing power of the Witch King. Yet, freedom was the price. As John took a step forward, he found his movement hindered. Glancing down, he saw Tom, his dog, biting at his wizard robe and whimpering. "I know, Tom." John paused, his gaze lingering on the magnificent throne before him. "Now is not the time to sit on it." "Yes, I know," he said softly, stroking Tom's head and peering into the dog's dark eyes. "You don't want to let me go." Tom lowered his tail, sitting there as if to shield John from the throne's allure. With a smile, John lifted Tom into his arms and walked outside, though he couldn't help but cast a final glance back at the eternal throne of the Witch King. It was a stark reminder that some destinies are inescapable. "Dumbledore, you spoke of love as a great and unmatched force," John mused, standing on a platform overlooking the wizarding city, his eyes fixed on the sky. "But do you truly understand love?" His time was dwindling. Perhaps, after Percy's wedding and the school league, it would be time to prepare. The Witch King surrendered everything to magic, including himself. For a Slytherin known for selfishness, loving the entire world was a harsh sentence. Among the three brothers, it was the eldest, who believed he was punishing the others, who remained unyielding. Power was his priority. John lowered his gaze to the earth, his lips barely moving as he whispered, "John Wick, This last bit of madness must be seized. It was as if he was speaking both to himself and to the world at large. If his fate was to remain forever, why not let John Wick enjoy one last adventure before entering the tower? Hogwarts was abuzz, hosting the busiest event since its founding, the School League. 10 magic schools from across the globe were competing on the same stage, each with its unique specialty. Vergadu excelled in transfiguration, Mesmer in potions, and Stores was known for its soothsayers. Beauxbatons boasted the greatest alchemist, Nicholas Flamel, while Durmstrang was permitted to study dark magic. The Tarot Magic Vocational and Technical School was making its debut in the European Magic School competition. Banad was almost entirely comprised of wizards, and Castro Bush was celebrated for its barbecue and football enthusiasts. Ilvermorny shared a bond of friendship with Hogwarts. As the organizer, Hogwarts welcomed all with open arms. The delegations arrived on October 10th, each school making a grand entrance that captivated the Hogwarts students. Beauxbatons arrived with rune horses, Durmstrang with a black ship, and others with a migration of beasts or a huge black eagle, showcasing a dazzling array of arrival methods. Hagrid donned his finest attire, trimmed his beard, and applied some perfume, eager to make a good impression. When Miss Maxim descended from the carriage, she immediately noticed Hagrid, with whom she had been corresponding. Away from the student's eyes, she gave him a wink, leaving Hagrid barely able to stand. The Hogwarts students were astounded by the headmaster of Mesmer, their eyes darting between Snape and the newcomer. A student from the Tarot Magic Vocational and Technical School exclaimed in awe, "Oh my God, this is Hogwarts?" His remark about Hogwarts appearing taller than their own Nadu drew a reprimand from a fellow student, who scolded him for speaking too loudly and for his accent, threatening to report him if he didn't cease. The team's principal, witnessing this exchange, wished he could discipline the pair for their carelessness. As the principal of Banaya, upon his arrival, he discreetly began gathering information about the candidates and their strengths from each participating school. The headmaster of Stores and Professor Slughorn, being old acquaintances, decided to catch up over drinks one evening. The headmaster brought along a bottle of vodka, playfully assuring Slughorn that it was merely oolong tea and that he wouldn't get drunk from it. The ever-naive Slughorn chuckled, remarking that in Britain, they drink all sorts of tea. It wasn't long before Principal Bailey of Castrobusher joined them, presenting a yerba mate and inquiring if Slughorn had ever tried it. With 10 schools congregating, the event was bustling with excitement. To accommodate everyone, Hogwarts had even expanded its auditorium. The teams from each school were interspersed among the Hogwarts students, with Durmstrang and Mesmer taking seats at the extended Slytherin table. Among them, Astoria, a Slytherin girl with long, silky golden hair and a resolute expression, stood out. As a member of the Star Club, she embodied the Slytherin spirit of pursuing glory, which she considered an irresistible allure. Astoria lifted her chin, her gaze sweeping across the audience with a defiant air. "By the stars," she proclaimed, her voice carrying a hint of pride. "Glory to Slytherin." Her declaration not only showcased her ambition, but also reflected the competitive spirit that filled the room, setting the stage for an event where honor and pride were at stake.